Hello everyone, this is What If Fanfic and today I'll bring you What If Naruto was a Fuinjutsu Prodigy Part 2. The link to the story will be in the description. If you want to hear a fanfiction please comment down below. Now on to the story.
Naruto sat under one of Konoha's numerous trees, enjoying the shade and the gentle breeze. It was a warm day, Konoha days tended to be, but wind offered a cooling effect. He had his face turned upward but his eyes were closed. It had been a very busy 3 months. He trained daily, of course, except for Sundays. He'd had some additions to his regimen, at the suggestion of Tsunade-sensei and Urodana. Tsunade-sensei recommended he do reaction time drills and gave him several examples, as evasion and quick thinking were paramount for combat medics. She also gave him a few more chakra control exercises, such as weapon balancing and underwater propulsion. Shizune-senpai was kind enough to demonstrate that exercise while wearing a 2-piece bikini. It was a good day, as far as the blonde was concerned. He even enjoyed the medical training, as the book work was challenging but not unmanageable. Although organic chemistry was the devil. Tsunade and Shizune agreed. Thanks to his clones, his knowledge and chakra control had progressed quickly enough that he was about ready to start shadowing other medics and learning advanced jutsu like the mystical palm and chakra scalpels. So far, he could only do really basic things. Urodana would train with him a few times a week. He helped Naruto learn how to suppress his large chakra signature as well as other techniques to improve his stealth. He also got Naruto used to fighting stronger, faster and more experienced opponents. Even free of his seals, he found it difficult to get clean hits on the Toad Sage. Urodana had also been sharing some of his sealing knowledge and specialization. He thought the fire suppression seal was amazing in its potential and it had inspired Naruto to create a new technique in conjunction with something else Urodana taught him, summoning. Naruto loved being a summoner, loved the toads. He'd always liked animals but was never in a position to have a pet. But summons were great, you could treat them like friends and it wasn't weird because they could actually talk back. He'd usually summon Gamakichi and Gamatatsu a few times a week just to talk and hang out, even introducing them to Hinata-chan and Sai. He didn't think Ino-chan would take to them, yet. Urodana told him not to attempt to summon any of the larger toads yet, that he'd clear some time so they could do it someplace remote. Naruto agreed, but there were so many to meet that not being able to summon the big three was no big deal. He'd never had so many sparring partners. Hatake-sensei kept up with what Naruto was calling his soft skills training. He had to admit, while not exactly what he was expecting, Hatake-sensei was a genius instructor. He wouldn't necessarily spell things out, but if you really dug into his lessons they often branched into many facets of being a shinobi. As Naruto learned to dance from Ino-chan and apply those lessons, he got what Hatake-sensei meant. His taijutsu was formerly good but his thinking had been too rigid. But now? He was learning, slowly, to adapt to his opponent's rhythm, to their flow and use it against them. What Naruto didn't know, and what Kakashi would never have the heart to tell him, was that the blonde simply took more out of Kakashi's pervert lessons than the man ever intended. When he said dancing could help with taijutsu, he was simply doing with Naruto what he had just done with Sasuke, give an abstract but acceptable benefit to an exercise he assumed his charge wouldn't want to undertake. Kakashi assumed that Naruto, like most boys, wouldn't want to learn to dance for the sake of dancing. He underestimated Naruto in that aspect and had set the boy on the path of being an eventual taijutsu beast. Maybe one even good enough to beat Guy's clone. Naruto even received a few tips on genjutsu theory from Yuhi-sensei. She said it was in thanks of the Fun bracelet and the pencil sketch Naruto made of her stored in her storage bead. It really helped him with another seal he was creating, one nearing completion. It wasn't all just training as Naruto made time for his friends. Outside of their usual spars, Hinata-chan and he would take walks or he would watch her decimate cinnamon rolls. He found it cute as she was so often reserved. He hung out with Sai several more times, and even got some ninjutsu out of it. Sai said his master appreciated Naruto befriending his charge, so he gave him 2 Fuuten jutsu and 1 Doden, but it was an incredibly useful one. Sai's master, Danzo-san, even challenged Naruto to learn the jutsu and the first exercise of wind nature transformation without the aid of clones. He had managed it, but it did take a few weeks to truly master the exercise, however it made learning the jutsu pretty easy, so it was time well spent. When alone, Naruto practiced cutting other things with just his chakra, such as logs or rocks. It would practice on speed, size of the cut and amount of power generated. It was really good chakra control. If not sparring, Sai and he would often talk about their mutual interests of art and self-help books. It was nice to find someone who had read as many as Naruto had, and the boys would share insights into people and their weird behavior. Naruto even introduced Sai to Hinata-chan and Ino-chan. The four hadn't really gotten to hang out together. Ino-chan always seemed tense around Hinata-chan for some reason. Naruto assumed it was because the two kunoichi weren't particularly good friends, and he resolved to make sure they spent more time together. In appreciation for Ino-chan teaching him how to dance, Naruto agreed to go shopping with his fellow blonde. She seemed surprised when he agreed, but he really didn't get the big deal. No, shopping wasn't that interesting to him, but Ino-chan could be quite engaging about the topic of fashion. Naruto would listen intently, asking questions every now and again, but generally just let her speak. She made sure he had a lot of casual and formal off-duty, whereas no friend of hers was going to be a fashion tragedy. It was good he was receiving pay for his Fun bracelets and his other seal work, as the price of clothing climbed rather rapidly. It was a unique experience for the Uzumaki, to see Shinobi gush about his creation but never knowing it was him that created it. It was only made available for Anbu and select jounin. Knowing the value of the seals, his Oji-san wouldn't clear anyone to possess if they hadn't been cleared by T&I. Naruto thought it wise, but had included ways to remotely disable or destroy the seals if they ever got into enemy hands. And given that each bracelet was biometrically coded to the individual owner, they were fairly secure. Naruto was creating a system for the hospital to allow for instant access to medical histories, but hadn't been too pressed to complete it. Tsunade-sensei was having her staff undergo the same process, as the hospital was an ideal location for information gathering. By the time everyone was cleared, he was confident he'd have the arrays ready to be installed and the individual beads to be given to the medical staff. Naruto's life was full. He hadn't realized how lonely he once felt until all the additional people in his life took it away. Just thinking about it brought a small smile to his face. As he sat under the tall tree and enjoyed the shade and the breeze, his companion was starting to stir. Naruto was actually on a mission to retrieve Tora, the supposed demon cat. Naruto didn't think the feline was so bad, she just didn't like her freedom being taken away. He assumed she'd likely return home when she was ready if her owner would just be patient. He found the kitty an hour ago. Sasuke was the lead for the mission and stated they should split up to cover more ground. It didn't take long for Naruto to find her, but he had no intention of getting scratched to hell, so he made a deal with her. If she stayed with him, he wouldn't take her back until his teammates found them. She seemed to understand and didn't run off. They had shared his lunch, and he'd even put a temperature control seal on her collar, one similar to what he installed in the kitchen at Ichiraku ramen stand. Then, they just drifted off for a midday nap. But now Tora was awake, and Naruto assumed it was because she sensed something or someone approaching. The cat had good senses, as it was Hatake-sensei who appeared first, orange book in hand. Sasuke and Sakura arrived soon after, both looking irate. Sasuke was the one to give voice to their displeasure. "If you found that stupid cat, why didn't you alert us?" "Because I made a deal with her and that would have violated it." "Well, the spirit of it." "You can't make a deal with a cat, Naruto baka," Sakura said. She just didn't understand her teammate or how he thought. "I can, and I did. Besides, if we had done what every other team did, Tora would have fought us. This way she comes along peacefully, and if we ever get this mission again, she knows we're fair." Sasuke, too, was often frustrated or annoyed with his teammate. Unlike most people that annoyed Sasuke, it wasn't because Naruto crowded him or was useless. He was skilled, Sasuke could admit that. He would also answer any questions the lone Uchiha had, but his bluntness reminded Sasuke of Itachi's dismissiveness, and it would scratch at an old wound. It was also the case that Naruto thought nothing like Sasuke, but was often either outright correct or had a strong enough point the Uchiha, who was used to the binary of either right or wrong, couldn't counter it. Naruto was maddening. But what really chapped Sasuke's ass? He wasn't the favorite. It was petty, he realized that. He shunned attention daily and had done so for years. But a part of him assumed he'd be Kakashi's favorite, that even while being difficult he'd be the one that Kakashi would give extra lessons to. And yes, Kakashi had taught him an additional katen jutsu when he hadn't taught either Sakura or Naruto one, but he could tell Kakashi wasn't as engaged as he was when teaching Naruto social skills. Add to that the glut of insipid D ranks, and Sasuke was nearing something of a breaking point. "Let's just end this stupid mission," Sasuke finally said. Naruto didn't respond, instead simply picking Tora up as he stood up and started walking toward the Hokage tower. Tora would occasionally rub her head against his whisker marks as he scratched gently underneath her chin. Some part of Sakura found it cute, another couldn't get over the 2F-king hours she spent looking for the little beast. Team 7 made good time to the tower and were allowed immediate entrance to the Hokage. The venerable leader was finishing some paperwork, so only caught the tail end of Naruto speaking. "And if you ever run into a piglet wearing pearls, that's Tauntaun. She's really cool, you two should hang out." Meow Naruto, pay attention. Iruka-sensei bellowed from the left side of the room. Naruto just kept petting Tora. Team 7 reporting in and returning 1 Tora, Hokage-sama. Good, Kakashi-kun. Iruka-kun, could you retrieve Madame Shijimi? Hi, Hokage-sama. Iruka exited the room for a moment and returned promptly with the daimyo's wife. The woman made quite the entrance, exclaiming loudly Tora-chan, as she strutted in the room. As she approached Naruto, ready to give Tora her customary death hug, she stopped at the sight of eyes as blue and hair as yellow of only one other person she knew of. She may give off the feeling of being vacuous, there was a reason she was a wife and not some side bitch. She turned to the Hokage, much of the joy gone from her face as she gently took Tora from Naruto. Hiruzen, we will be speaking about this. The aged Hokage saw how she looked at Naruto and knew what the discussion would entail. Most everyone else, excluding Kakashi and Naruto, were confused by the woman's sudden change in mood as they had brought her stupid cat back. Madame Shijimi exited the office and he decided to move on lest unwanted questions started getting asked. Well, congratulations Team 7 on a successful mission. Now, what else will we be undertaking today? I believe my team is ready for a C rank, Hokage-sama. Kakashi spoke. He got the sense Iruka was going to protest, so he pinned the Chunin with a quick glare. Concern was one thing, coddling was another. Are you sure, Kakashi-kun? Hi. It's time for me to make my final decision on whether or not this will be my team. A standard C rank should be an adequate measure to see if they have what it takes. I agree, Iruka, please retrieve Tazuna-san. As fast as last time, Iruka left and returned with their client. Is this my protection? A cyclops and 3 brats? Look at yellow-haired one, he doesn't even seem all there in the head and is the size of an imp. Tazuna couldn't understand how wrong and ironic his words were. As he spewed his insults, Naruto was blazing through seal elements, having activated his projection seal. The goal? The first ever seal to make someone bitch slap themselves. He was nailing down the connections to the cerebral cortex when he heard his Oji-san speak. Naruto, stop it, now. Naruto disengaged the projection and faced his Oji-san, not understanding how the man knew what he was thinking. He wondered if it were some sort of jutsu, an Oji-san jutsu. Truthfully, Inoiki had counseled Hiruzen to look for signs Naruto was getting frustrated or angry, as he may not always verbalize it. Hiruzen had and knew the beginning signs Naruto was angry was when he quirked an eyebrow. If the annoyance progressed, he would stroke one of his spiky bangs. Hiruzen didn't know what came after that and didn't much want to. Tazuna, be at the East Gate in 2 hours, thank you. The Hokage said, and the man recognized the dismissal for what it was and left. Hiruzen handed Kakashi the mission scroll and he looked it over quickly. This is a protection mission, pack for about a month and meet me at the East Gate in 2 hours. The team departed, all 3 excited for their first real ninja mission. The team arrived at the gate, as did the client, during their scheduled time. They departed in the most basic formation, Sasuke in front, Naruto and Sakura to either side and Kakashi in back, head in his icha-icha. It was rather tranquil, the only sounds being the short conversation between Sakura and Tazuna-san. Eventually, the team came toward a puddle. Naruto never really paid attention to weather patterns, but he knew a derivative of the false surrounding jutsu when he saw it. It was mentioned in several of the genjutsu guides and books he read, as well as one Yuhi-sensei demonstrated for him. He turned his head slightly to make the smallest eye contact with Hatake-sensei and he saw his sensei give a small nod. Naruto told himself not to tense, as that would give the impending ninja a sign they'd been made. He made sure to keep his breathing normal. Awaiting an ambush was a unique experience he wouldn't really recommend. While he had tags prepared that could disrupt it, if those ninja weren't actually there for them, then he started an unnecessary fight. If they were there, then he could cost them much needed intelligence, and since Hatake-sensei hadn't made a move, Naruto could only conclude he was to let this play out. He didn't like it, though. His instincts were of one that laid the trap, not someone that knowingly sprung a trap. Soon they passed the puddle and 2 shinobi leapt out of it, both wearing gauntlets with a chain attached to it. The chain wrapped around Kakashi and seemingly killed the jounin. Sakura screamed, Sasuke got into his taijutsu stance and Naruto had his Eskrima sticks out and at the ready. One down. One of the duo spoke before they made a beeline toward Tazuna. Sasuke took to the air, landing a spin kick on one of the shinobi with enough force to send them stumbling back into a tree. He then threw a kunai, pinning the chain to a tree. The tag team had no choice but to uncouple themselves. During this exchange, Naruto had gotten closer to the action, but not much. His heart was racing and he could feel the effects of endorphins flooding his body due to his first taste of real combat. But he forced himself to remain focused. Now that the two could move freely, it complicated and simplified matters. They must have been better when attacking in tandem, so Sasuke did, presumably, decrease their overall effectiveness. He also introduced a host of new variables. Naruto watched the two men. If they chose to both attack Sasuke, he was close enough, he believed, to intercede. If one came after Tazuna, then he was prepared to set a trap and then help Sasuke. It all depended on these next moments. He felt his grip tighten on his sticks. Whatever path he chose, he'd have to commit to. One of the duo ran past Sasuke, while the other continued to engage. This was it. Naruto channeled chakra to his feet. Creating a two-layer seal through his feet was difficult but manageable, as he'd practiced it and had his clones do the same. It was going to be a simple paralysis and chakra restraint seal, with a cloaking array thrown in so the enemy ninja wouldn't realize it. Naruto waited patiently as the man approached, the distance between them shortening by the millisecond. What Naruto had not planned for was Sasuke knocking his opponent down with a hard kick and deciding to go after the one charging toward their client, taking it on himself to save Naruto from freezing up. When he ran in between Naruto and the oncoming ninja, he set off the seal, not even managing to finish whatever barb he was saying. He also blocked Naruto's path, slowing any attempted dash to the man preparing to stab Sasuke through the heart. It was at that point Kakashi interceded, grabbing the man by the neck and revealing he had the other ninja in a similar hold. He smiled at his genin and then excused himself. About 5 minutes later he returned. Sasuke was scowling at Naruto, who looked on him passively. Tazuna looked panicked when Kakashi ordered him to explain. The man then told the team his story, how he was wanted by an international criminal, how his bridge would free his people, and how he was desperate for help. Kakashi decided to let his team choose whether or not they would continue. Sasuke emphatically stated he wanted to go. Sakura, while not confident, agreed. His third student remained quiet, thumb and index finger on his chin. "What are you thinking, Naruto? This isn't really a bodyguard mission anymore." Kakashi began in interest. "Explain." "We're going to a hostile territory with our opposition on the lookout for us. This is more an infiltration, Hatake-sensei." "That's a very interesting point. And how would that change things?" "I don't know, I need information from the package," Naruto said, and then created a clone to go speak to Tazuna. "One problem, Hatake-sensei, is that any shinobi will know we are a Genin squad. We have to change that." Kakashi nodded, and in the background could hear Chibi's clone questioning Tazuna about the travel plans into Wave, the boatman's name, and how the man generally interacts with him. Kakashi had an inkling what Naruto was planning but wanted to hear him out. "You would suggest we each get out of our shinobi clothes and take off our headbands?" "Hi. Anything with a clan crest, anything ninja related would tip off whoever is waiting for us." "Do we know?" "No, both of the demon brothers had a suicide pill on their mouths. We know whoever it is, scares them enough to prefer suicide to betrayal." "Now read this statement," Tazuna-san the clone requested, and now Kakashi definitely knew what Naruto was planning. "You three start getting changed into something believably civilian," Kakashi ordered. He didn't want to miss the climax. "I don't have any civilian clothes, Kakashi. Do you have a rain cloak?" "Hi. Then put that on, Sasuke." His students exited to the trees to change their clothes as Kakashi still watched the clone interact with Tazuna. The clone requested Tazuna sit down, and the man complied, taking residence on a stump. The clone then positioned Tazuna's head with his chin slightly raised. And without warning or preamble, the clone shot out a lightning-fast jab to said chin and knocked the man out. Tazuna was in a prisoner transport scroll before he knew what hit him. "That is an expert slumping, Clone-kun. Now, let me see it." The clone obeyed and hinged into Tazuna and even said a short passage in his voice. Kakashi smiled at how clever Chibi could be, turning the client into a package and walking into Nami with no one the wiser. It was simple, but the plan contained layers. With Naruto's seal mastery, he could fortify the bridge and the bridge builder's house. What was once a weakness is now a strength. With his henge abilities, Naruto could bait the enemy shinobi to attack when they were prepared for it. As long as Team 7 got to Tazuna home, they were in a strong position to set the terms of engagement. And while this rested on Naruto's unique set of skills, they were his skills and he planned to use them beautifully. Kakashi wondered if he should start giving Naruto some Onbu scenarios to run through just to see how he'd respond. Hai's train of thought was broken when the kids returned, except instead of a blonde, a pinkette and a Sasuke, he now had an auburn redhead, and 2 ravenettes. He was also, decidedly down a boy, as Chibi was now a gray midriff-wearing, dark-haired girl. The eyes were the same, the whisker marks seemed to be covered over with foundation, and her hair were in 2 pigtails going down her back. "Sensei, do you want a seal to change your hair, too?" "Sure, Naruto. Is this the sexy jutsu?" "Hi. It has almost no chakra cost once I transform, so it shouldn't be noticeable to any but the best sensors, Naruto said in a decidedly feminine, pre-adolescent voice as she walked over and gave him a seal. Kakashi applied it to the top of his head and thought about what he wanted as he channeled chakra into the seal. Soon, his trademark silver hair was black as well as stringy. He simply brushed it back with his hand and then made his way to the forest to change. Once he returned, he had a simple blue shirt and black pants. Like the kids, he swapped out his shinobi sandals for a pair of regular ones he kept sealed. Apparently Naruto kept multiple pairs in case he had to henge into people of various sizes. Once he checked them over, they made haste toward the coast. During the travel, Kakashi critiqued their performance. He felt Naruto should not have waited for the second demon brother to make a move. It wasn't a bad tactic, but it was one that used his teammate as bait, and with his ability with shadow clones there was reason to do so. He also felt Sasuke should have had more confidence in his teammate. Especially don't try to quip when he was ruining a perfectly good trap. He admonished all three of them for not being prepared for a third opponent, though Naruto pointed out he knew Kakashi was watching. Right before they reached the boatman, Naruto made a clone and henged it into Tazuna. The ride over was quiet, the man obviously scared and was more than happy to see them depart from him. With the clone dispelled, the foursome walked toward Tazuna's. There was a tense moment for Kakashi. He felt himself being watched but didn't allow it to change his body language. Any hint he knew someone was there could ruin the entire play, and this was the most crucial part of it. The onlooker, or lookers, let them be, and Team 7 made it to Tazuna's. Naruto unsealed the drunk so he could verify they were there to protect him. It was late evening by the time they arrived and most everyone was tired. It was fortunate Naruto was not, as he was going to have a long night ahead of him. By the time everyone was settling in for the night, the once again blonde boy began creating his security measures for the house and had 2 5-member teams of clones doing so for the surrounding area and the bridge. Kakashi may have appeared to be asleep, but he was wide awake running scenarios, plans and counterplans. Truthfully, if not for Chibi speaking up, Kakashi would have walked Tazuna right into an ambush under the belief he could handle it. Cocky? Yes. Irresponsible? Definitely. And that was never how he ran Onbu missions. He was methodical, logical and efficient. It'd shame him that his student had to put him in the right frame of mind if said student was the chosen one and destined to do all kinds of unbelievable things as he led men into a new era. He digressed. There was a problem, an army of bandits and an unknown number of missing ninja. Kakashi needed information, and the best way to do that was to put Tazuna in harm's way. Tomorrow was going to be the opening move of the real game. Kakashi was ready, he only hoped his team would be as well. The demon of the mist was starting to grow impatient. He's been waiting for the bridge builder to return, or the very least the demon brothers. It could be the man was still hiding in Konoha, but Zabuza just had a feeling that wasn't the case. He didn't want to kidnap the man's family to draw him out, but he needed to move things along. He hated working for scum like Gato, hated being a missing nin. This was the fabled final job, the one last score that would allow him to charge back to Kiri and kill Yagura. He was getting too edgy, anticipating too much. It was a bad place to be. You jump at everything and no longer distinguish between a real threat and a nuisance. He hoped Haku would have better luck, having been ordered to watch the bridge just in case. He just needed eyes on the old man, just one clear shot. Zabuza turned swiftly when he heard someone traveling through the trees. They were moving fast, their landings light. He wasn't a chakra sensor, but his other senses were highly trained. Given the sound and the speed, he assumed it was Haku, but soon all travel stopped, but something was sailing through the air. Zabuza caught the item with ease, Haku's Hunter Nin mask. On the back of the mask was a short note, the first sentence making Zabuza shake with fury. "We have Haku." The note demanded he show up at the bridge at midnight to negotiate Haku's release. He would never be brought so low for a tool. Instead, he'd slaughter everyone there and then go to the old man's house and kill him and his entire family. Whoever these ninja were, they'd learned demons don't bargain. 4 hours previous to the delivery of the note, Kakashi watched as their captive and bargaining chip was made comfortable. She'd been knocked unconscious, thanks to one of Naruto's seals. Kakashi didn't know the name, but the effect was something not to be ignored. The girl thought she had escaped the blast radius, only to be violently pulled back before jettisoned forward. Naruto said she didn't have whiplash but did take a nasty bump on the head. She was good, only a seal that could read chakra capacity gave her away and the trap was sprung before she could ever put up a real fight. They now had the advantage. Kakashi sincerely doubted she was working alone, but he'd have to get that information out of her to confirm. Whoever she worked for, assuming she did, had just gotten their attack force reduced and were on the back foot. Assassins were hunters, they were used to choosing where and when. It wasn't natural for them to be on the defensive. Once she awoke, Kakashi sent everyone out of the room. It didn't take long to get what he needed. The Sharingan was just a handy tool in situations like these. But the aftermath, her being so broken for having betrayed her Zabuza-sama, didn't fill him with pride. True, this way would mean she was more than likely to survive, but there is living and there is being alive. Kakashi knows that better than most. For years he was simply alive, the death he sought avoided him at every turn. He doesn't know if he started living again, but he knows he isn't where he was. He briefed his team on the new information. They needed to know they were up against a genuine Kiri Hardman. This wasn't a game, this wasn't a time where mistakes could be tolerated. Perfection was an unreasonable standard, and yet it would be needed. Kakashi was confident he could take on the demon of the hidden mist, but things happened, no outcome was guaranteed. Being at the mercy of a fresh Genin some months ago retaught that lesson. He informed them Naruto would be delivering the message via a clone. It would not risk any of them and give the boy a chance to try out an early version of his track and trace seal. Naruto designed the receiver seal on the spot, and Kakashi assigned Sakura to listen in, and the clone would keep a visual on Zabuza's location. 2 hours after the note was delivered, Kakashi was contacted. Via the communication seal Naruto gave the entire team. Big dog, this is Spiral 1, over. The beauty of the seal is the wearer didn't have to speak but simply think their message. The range was limited, which is why Naruto felt it wasn't complete, but it was an upgrade to the standard radios. I copy Spiral 1, over. I've got a visual on Zabuza Gato and 2 Hatchetmen, over. I've got Cherry Bomb listening in, over. Requesting permission to neutralize all parties, over. And there it was. His chibi was asking for the green light. Even if said chibi was a clone, Naruto would have to live through the act. The request made sense. Zabuza was in an enclosed space with Gato. He knew Naruto had a barrier that could end them. Could he make his sensei's son first kill be in cold blood? An assassination? Naruto wasn't a cold person. His weapons of choice could disarm, could cause a lot of damage, but were not designed for killing. Neither was his taijutsu. The kid came up with an idea to avoid fighting. He wasn't a killer. But Zabuza was. A merciless one at that. Had Kakashi's earlier admonishment of Naruto putting his teammates at risk caused an overcorrection? Or was this just an acknowledgement of opportunity? He had no time to figure it out, and ultimately it couldn't matter. Should Kakashi give the order? He may protect Tazuna until Gato's men rebel and they have a disorganized riot of bandits to deal with. His negotiation with Zabuza might bear fruit. And ultimately, killing Gato when he hasn't attacked them is beyond their mandate. He had his answer. Negative, Spiral 1, over. Understood, big dog. New orders? Over. Follow Gato, attempt to get a seal on him, too. I have a feeling he might have his own plans. Don't overdo it and don't be seen. Over. Understood, big dog. Over and out. Kakashi released a sigh. This kid's made things too intense for his money. He quickly looked at the time. It was just 3 p.m. There was a lot of time left before he was to meet Zabuza. Kakashi had a feeling his midnight meeting would decide the success or failure of this mission, and that didn't sit well with him, at all. Hatake Kakashi. The demon of the mist spoke, blatant edge to his voice. Where is Haku? Ma, Zabuza-kun. She is safe and now under the protection of Konoha for the duration of our negotiation. Bad way to start, not bringing her. Couldn't risk you getting rambunctious before we've spoken. She's a valuable tool, but not that valuable, and won't stop me from killing you, Hatake. What do you want? I want to know why 2 professionals such as ourselves are getting played by some small town crook and alcoholic bridge builder. 3:10 p.m., 6 hours and 50 minutes before meet with Zabuza, Tazuna's house, kitchen. Team 7 sat around Sanami's kitchen table, Kakashi at the head, Naruto on one side while Sakura was on the other. Sasuke sat at the opposite end facing Kakashi. We've got some time before I meet Zabuza, and I wanted to have a brief team meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, voice them now. If we have his partner, why just attack him since he's the threat? All 4 of us could take him, Kakashi. Sasuke observed. Why don't one of you tell me? True, we could likely take Zabuza. I'm confident I could defeat him myself, though it'd be difficult. However, not enough to deter me should it need to happen, so why take this option? What do you think, Sakura? We don't have enough information? She asked back. Yes, that is true. While I am fairly sure Haku was the last of Zabuza's support, the pair are not the totality of Gato's forces. We don't know how many there are, where they are stationed, or what they comprise of. Are they just thugs? Former samurai? This is important, but as a ninja you often don't have perfect information, and waiting for the time you do can cause your mission to fail. Risk is inherent in this line of work. It can only be minimized so much. Naruto, what do you think? We have a four-party conflict presenting itself as a two-party conflict. And who would the four interested parties be? Nominally, Tazuna and Gato. But you and Zabuza would be the two hidden ones. Exactly. It is easy to think of this as us, representing Tazuna, versus Zabuza who represents Gato. But Zabuza's loyalty is only to the extent of his pay, and I not only have to try to complete the mission but do so in such a way that doesn't harm Konoha's short or long-term interests either, namely protecting you three. This means Zabuza could be useful if I play this right. Tazuna's bridge, 12:07 AM. What are you playing at, Kakashi? Zabuza growled. I'm sure Gato told you why he needed the bridge builder clipped. Yes, it threatens his business. This massive, bicoastal bridge. The one thing that could harm his business, and it somehow manages to build to near completion before he stops it? Either he's incompetent or he's lying. Yup. The bridge is the last hope of the residents. They believe it will free them, but if Gato has the muscle to claim an island, he can manage a bridge. You killing Tazuna more or less after he finishes breaks the will of the people. Come on now, how did Tazuna's drunken self get out of Nami under a shipping magnate and smuggler's watch? Maybe he thinks I'll kill you. Tazuna finishes the bridge and the people cheer, only to be further oppressed. On the other hand, you kill me and he lays all of this at your feet. A third option is we either kill or exhaust each other and he comes and cleans us up. It's an interesting theory, but that rat wouldn't cross me. Betrayal works best that way. 3:45 PM. Nearing Nami's daimyo mansion. Gato had not been enthused by his talk with Zabuza. The man dared to think he could set the timetable and completely disregard what he, Gato, thought? When he was cutting the checks. When he was the one in control. It made his blood boil, the arrogance of that musclehead. Little better than a beast of burden, and thought he could speak down to an accomplished businessman. Gato would continue to rant and rave until he was suddenly and most unpleasantly interrupted. Before he could make sense of anything, Gato found himself on his back looking toward the sky. Then he was yanked up, as if he weighed nothing. Gato finally put eyes on the person that dared to manhandle him. A boy, teen really, brown hair and black eyes. Taller than Gato but not by much, and wore a yellow shirt and blue pants. The boy seemed panicked. Oh, geez. I'm sorry about that. Oh geez. You see what you did? A taller, older and balding man in a white robe and brown pants said. I let you pick. You say you get to pick every 10th time, and you see. This is why you can't be in control. You run into people and get us into all kinds of shit. Why you've been riding my ass since we left, you haven't even given this a chance. The teen said before slapping at the older man. You wanna go? We can go. The man said as he started tussling with the boy in earnest. Waraji and Zori eventually put a stop to it until the, Gato assumed, grandfather and grandson pair on their way. Gato continued on to his mansion even more annoyed than he was. The grandfather and grandson had slinked off to an alley and was soon joined by a third party. Did you do it? Spiral 1 asked. Hi, said Spiral 2 with Spiral 3 nodding. The first clone shined away to continue his job of surveilling Gato. The second clone activated his communication seal. Spiral 2 to Cherry Bomb, do you copy? This is Cherry Bomb, Spiral 2, I copy. I tagged Gato and his two guards. Channel, 2, 3 and 4 respectively. Over. I'll switch now. Over. Continuing surveillance, Spiral 3 and I will take the muscle should they leave. Over and out. As Sakura remained vigilant listening to any salient information, Sasuke and Kakashi were resting. The day would be long and rest was a premium, especially if Kakashi was going to need to use his Sharingan. A clone of Naruto's was helping Tsunami around the house, as a guest should. The original was sitting in a spare bedroom holding a snow rabbit observing Haku. She was clearly in pain, but she would confess her physical pain barely merited a mention compared to her emotional distress. She looked broken, utterly broken. Kill me, she whispered. I have no value to you, I am simply a broken tool, so I also have no value to Zabuza-sama. When she heard the boy walk toward her, a traitorous part of her flinched, a pesky will to survive that was unbefitting a tool and a betrayer. She forced herself to relax, to the best of her abilities, as her back was incredibly sore. She heard the boy move deliberately. She didn't bother to make eye contact as she just wanted it over. Closer and closer he walked, until she could feel his body heat. He moved his hand to her right arm and pinched her, hard. Ow, she exclaimed as he sat back down. Why did you do that? I've never, not once, heard a kunai shout in pain. We've established you are not a tool, and as such, killing you because you are broken is a fundamentally flawed argument. You're wrong, that's exactly what I am. I have no more purpose, I have no reason to live. What purpose was so significant that to fail it means you should die? Naruto decided to ignore the tool talk, she seemed committed to it. For the first time Haku made contact with the boy. To protect the person that saved me, my sole precious person. Zabuza isn't dead. I've still put him at risk, I've failed in my duty. What greater shame is there? I've never felt ashamed before but I've seen it. My Oji-san had to explain it to me. He has to explain a lot of that stuff to me. Anyway, I remind my villagers of a tragic day. They ostracize me because of it and have for as long as I can remember. For most of my life they looked at me in fear and apprehension. It changed in the last 2 years and I didn't understand it, hence asking my Oji-san. Most people would likely rank mistreating a child as one of the worst things you can do, and yet my villagers did that. However, their reasons started to falter and it created cognitive dissonance. If they didn't find a way to stay angry at me, they may have to acknowledge me as what I truly am and then acknowledge what their actions make them. Haku was so absorbed in her story that she forgot about her own shame for a moment. Do you hate them? No. They are trapped and can't face themselves. If I were what they said I was but changed, they'd likely accept me more as it would have proven them right. But, they can't redeem me because I don't need it. They want to rid themselves of the burdens they carry, but the process scares them. I think, objectively, that's sad, though I don't feel sad for them. Why would you tell me this? Because shame is an acknowledgement that, for whatever reason, you failed at something and failed yourself. But failure is rarely the end of things. My best friend once called me a proud failure because I never let setbacks stop me from trying. This is different. Maybe. But even still, your precious person is still alive and there is more than one way to protect someone. Haku was starting to get annoyed at the emotionless boy. Well, my way is to assure Zabuza-sama can achieve his ambition, but if he has to rescue me I'm only in the way. What's his ambition? To overthrow Yagura, the Mizukage. The man that started the bloodline purges, the man that made people fear those with bloodlines, the one that. He's a monster and Zabuza-sama wants to usurp him, but that takes resources. It's only the two of you? Yes, if the demon brothers are gone. You can't fight a rebellion with 2 people. We'd raise an army. Oh, so he has contacts in Kiri? Not that I'm aware of. All the people he had died against Yagura, except the demon brothers. So, he takes missions with the intent to return to Kiri, raise an army of people with little connection to him and kill a sitting cage? Yes, she said heatedly, not likely this boy criticizing Zabuza. Sounds like you aren't the only one ashamed. Haku went wide-eyed at the boy's pronouncement. She dedicated herself to protecting Zabuza-sama, ensuring he'd eventually return to Kiri and save it. But if he truly was forestalling his return, then she'd failed entirely. She really was useless. What's your bunny's name? What? Why couldn't he let her break down in peace? Your bunny, what is his name? Chappie. Do you think Zabuza needs the same kind of protection Chappie does? Are you mocking me? Not intentionally, no, Naruto said, looking at Haku unblinkingly. What is your point? In Konoha we believe in the will of fire, the idea that everyone in the village is family and everyone looks after everyone else. That didn't seem to apply to you. You can't judge a method by a single outcome, Haku-san. When Oji-san was telling me what a Hokage did, he said he had the ultimate job of protecting Konoha and passing on the will of fire. I was confused for a while after that talk. He sits in the office most days, how is he protecting anything? Eventually, I realized there are 3 types of protection: taking someone's burden, sharing someone's burden, and preparing them to face their burdens. Oji-san could do the first one for major threats but mostly did the latter too. Including allowing an orphan to not think he'd always be an outsider, unable to understand those around him. And which one does Zabuza-sama need? I couldn't possibly know, I don't know him. But it'd take more than a tool to figure it out. Naruto sat Chappie down and unsealed a jar from his mass storage seal. This ointment is a pain reliever. If you have trouble putting it on, let me know and I can help. Hentai, Haku yelled, and Naruto looked confused. I'd only see your lower back. Are lower backs titillating? Can you have a lower back fetish? I'll have to ask OJ-san about that. He really wasn't specific, Naruto said, mostly to himself as Haku watched on in disbelief. The boy was odd. Anyway, I'm training in the medical arts, so this would be a form of treatment, not an attempt to oogle you. I'm fine, boys your age get ideas. You're the one talking about lower back fetishes, Naruto said in confusion. He grew even more confused when the kunoichi laughed as he exited. Haku opened the jar of medicinal cream and rubbed on her back with great effort, but she bore it all the same. Within minutes the cream had taken effect and she felt good enough to move to the bed. She picked up her faithful companion and thought deeply by the perplexing blonde's words. Had she been mistaken about what Zabuza-sama truly needed? Did he need more than a tool? If so, what was it and how could she become it? She'd circle around these thoughts until she drifted off. 12:10 a.m., Tazana's bridge. You still haven't told me what you want, Kakashi. To procure your services. It shouldn't be too hard to make Gato disappear. Then you can take what he was going to pay you and be on your merry way. Back out of a contract? Just because I'm a missing ninja doesn't mean I have no honor. Besides, your bingo book bounty would be a nice bonus. Ma, that assumes you'd be alive to claim it. Do you really want Gato's men to kill you because you exhausted yourself fighting me? Unless, that's exactly what you want. 3:57 p.m. Gato's hideout / Nami's daimyo mansion. Wara-ji, Zori, how would you characterize our men? Gato asked. Fodder, mostly, Zori spoke. I'd estimate 10 are solid but still a cut below us. Why? Wara-ji asked. I don't trust Zabuza can get to the bridge builder. He was supposed to be on the lookout for that drunk pest's return, but somehow the man managed to get back and Zabuza didn't even know. And he was alone today. What happened to the other 3 members? Dead, most likely. Or captured. Zabuza did say he would meet the other ninja on the bridge. Wara-ji answered. If they are captured, he's compromised and may turn on me. And with the attention of a ninja village, we're going to need to go underground, but not before I extract my pound of flesh. What are you planning, boss? Zori asked. I want you to get the men ready, have most go to the bridge. Tell them to handle the ninja and blow the bridge. Have our best go to Tazana's. Kill him, kills his family. And what about us? Wara-ji questioned. As soon as they move out, we're going to get on my ship and get out of here. I hate to lose territory, but I've broken Nami once, I can break it again. The 2 bodyguards left the mansion, each going to a separate complex where Gato stored his men. Neither realized they had a tail. Back at Tazana's, Sakura informed Kakashi of the developments and he hummed in satisfaction. Kakashi thought he'd need to spur Gato on to betray Zabuza, but it appeared the man was rather distrusting and cowardly. He could make use of this, but he had no intention of fighting an army of bandits. He could do it, but putting forth that much effort wasn't cool. Besides, he had Chibi here and he was confident the blonde could come up with something. Sakura, get the real Naruto and have him come here. Oh, great, more ways to avoid fighting. Sasuke scoffed. You say something, Sasuke-chan? The Uchiha bristled. We aren't going to get stronger if we don't challenge ourselves, Kakashi. And by challenge you mean open combat with an unknown number of enemies? No physical descriptions? Not even a word on their locations yet? We could take them. Possibly. But could we do it and avoid innocent bystanders? Do we know if they have hostages? Have they rigged their barracks to blow? Your challenges will come, Sasuke. The Uchiha scowled. He hated how useless he's felt this entire mission. Intellectually he can attest to Kakashi's approach, but it is one that leaves him with little to do. He can't get real experience if he doesn't fight, he certainly can't awaken his Sharingan. As Sasuke was getting lost in his thoughts, Naruto walked in. You wanted to see me, Hatake-sensei? Yes, I need to ask you something, but first, did Sakura fill you in on what Gato plans to do? The boy nodded. Good, good. Is there a way to tag each of Gato's men, without them knowing it, so we can activate it once they get to the bridge? Naruto thought about this and then squinted. You would like me to create a seal that implants other seals on people without their knowledge? Maybe put it in the main exits, like a barrier that doesn't impede them but can chakra write a seal in thin air? Kakashi sweat drop at the summation. He guessed it did sound ridiculous once laid out. A trap seal would be fine, except there was a chance they'd miss some of them and he wanted to avoid that if possible. Did you hear me, Hatake-sensei? I'm sorry, lost to my thoughts, what did you say? I said it might take an hour if I don't rush it. Wait, you can actually do this? Naruto looked at him blankly. I outlined the elements, sensei. A barrier, placed on the exits that can chakra write. Well, it'd be more like a replicator array. A cloaking layer so it goes unseen. Multiple triggers, maybe pressure and body heat? At the bare minimum, what must the effect be, sensei? I just need something that won't allow them to flee or attack. Yes, I believe I can accomplish this. I'll be outside if you need me. Sasuke watched the interaction but didn't get the significance of what he'd heard. It was only Kakashi's question that clued Sasuke in that Naruto may have done something impressive. He knew his teammate used Fuinjutsu, a rare skill set, but because it was so rare it was hard to gauge when something was truly a demonstration of skill or if it just looked that way to the ignorant. Kakashi, how good is Naruto at Fuinjutsu? Kakashi formed an eye smile. You'll have to ask him yourself. HN. Elsewhere, a small boy watched as Naruto settled onto the dock of the pond near Tazana's. The boy had been experienced a whirlwind of emotions when his grandfather informed him he was leaving to purchase the aid of real-life ninja. Inari hadn't held out much hope, he hadn't felt hope in years. His hero died and no one lifted a hand. To his small mind that must have meant Gato was simply too powerful, his father had tried to do the impossible. What were a few ninja going to do that an entire village couldn't? He'd held firm on that belief even when the ninja arrived. They didn't look that impressive, most of them weren't much older than him. What were some kids going to do? What could they do? He started to feel angry. At them for giving his mother and grandfather false hope. At the adults for believing in some weirdo Cyclops and his children. But he wouldn't explode, not yet. They'd show themselves to be inadequate and he'd tell his grandfather it was always a bad idea. But then, something amazing happened. Inari watched as one of the kids, the blonde, made copies of himself. Copies that could walk and talk and think all on their own. Then he watched the blondes paint these weird symbols outside of the house and then made it emit a glow. The blonde made another painting, on paper, and then had the entire family place their thumbs on the symbol. Inari felt something pass over him. It was cold and hot at the same time. Once that was done, the boy explained they were now safe, that no one but the family and his team could come in without being allowed to. Inari saw something he hadn't seen in years, his mother relaxed. As if years of tension had melted away, the blonde assured his mother she was safe and she believed him. And as much as he hated it, Inari believed him, too. He then watched as the team had ways of communicating without actually speaking and could transform to look and sound just like his grandpa. They even caught an enemy ninja. Overthrowing Gato didn't seem so impossible now. Hope battled the tragedy-induced pessimism Inari had wrapped himself up in since his father's death. He stopped believing in heroes, but his young mind couldn't discount what he'd seen. It was magic as far as he was concerned. Real-life magic. He wanted to talk to the fellow boy, to understand how he was strong and unafraid of Gato. He wanted to know a great many things, but he decided to wait and watch. They hadn't truly saved his grandfather yet. Naruto knew he had watchers but worked diligently. His self-imposed deadline was fast approaching and he didn't want any unnecessary delays. The seal, as he told Hatake-sensei, would at its most basic be a barrier. A simple one that could allow passage if the creator so chose. Naruto then added various arrays to the barrier level, not only the tag that would be applied to Gato's men but the replicator and discharge arrays that would actually apply it to the skin, as well as a cloaking seal inside the tag so they aren't visible even when applied. That took the longest, as instead of doing a multi-layer seal for that part, he did a multifactorial array all on one level. This, to Naruto's mind, is what Fuinjutsu so complicated. Most people tried for really complex multifactorial seals. Every seal is a collection of arrays, but some have been worked out enough to essentially function as one. No one needs to think about the ignition and combustion parts of an exploding tag, it's been standardized too long for that. But adding an exploding tag array into other arrays means you have to compensate for the various elements, sometimes making certain aspects less efficient so it could coexist with others. Seal masters understand how to get around this issue, but it does take time. Multi-tiered sealing allowed for dedicated arrays to function as they should, with the translation happening after the function took place. More people didn't do it, Naruto was told by Jiraiya, because the theory was so underdeveloped and seemed magnitudes harder than the multifactorial method. The second tier would act as the activation trigger, pressure and body temperature with a tracker array so multiple targets could be identified and tagged at the same time. The last tier would be the most experimental of the three. One of the jutsu Naruto learned was the Earth-style, subterranean voyage. He thought incorporating that ability to merge with solid surfaces would do well with his Fun beads, especially once he figured out his information system seals. Once Naruto had drawn out the seals on separate scrolls, Naruto layered them and then performed a series of hand signs. The three individual seals merged into one and then compressed into something new. The compression sealing jutsu was an Uzumaki original and one that they shared with the larger sealing community. Naruto activated his projection seal as he looked at his work and the contact of the relevant parties. Spiral 1, 2, and 3, this is Spiral Prime, copy. This is Spiral 1, I copy. Spiral 2 here, I copy. Spiral 3, copy. Activate projection seals and memorize what you see. Big Dog wants them on every exit of Gato's and his army's complex. Over. We applying these to our spare Fun beads? Over. Hi, you are. Spiral Prime, over and out. The three shadow clones memorized the details of the tri-level seal, taking a moment to pull it apart. They had orders, but new Fuinjutsu was presented to them and they had see what it did. Once they did, each summoned a number of blank Fun beads from the mass storage seal and applied the compressed seal via chakra. Each clone would infuse a little chakra into the beads before tossing them into various door frames and watched as the beads sunk before he was no longer visible. The process should have been harder, but Gato's men were so arrogant they didn't believe anyone would actually attack them, so they had no guards. Gato, however, simply had sent his guards away and was unprotected. It took not even 5 minutes to set up the barriers, and the clones were back to their hiding spots before anyone knew. They settled back in, ready to surveil their targets until told otherwise. Back on the pier, the original Naruto had unsealed a cylindrical pillow and propped his head up. He was in need of a nap. He'd been a little keyed up, not that anyone knew, and hadn't slept well. The last seal was taxing on his tired mind, so he thought a nice nap by the water would be justified. He was asleep as soon as he had hit the pillow. Inari went back to the house when he saw Naruto fall asleep. Haku, with Chappie, watched the boy that had thrown her world in such disarray. The boy that so easily made her question much of her reality, her place in Zabuza's life, and her very identity. She was confused and wanted a way to dismiss his words. But she would return to his story, about the villagers that couldn't face themselves, so they continued to blame him. She didn't want to do that. She wasn't a coward. She was a tool. The thought ended abruptly as Haku rubbed her arm where Naruto pinched her. Was she still a tool? Should she had ever been one? Could Zabuza-sama have already achieved his dream had she been better? Or simply more? Something other than a thing in need of orders? If she had her own will, if she were acknowledged as an equal, would Zabuza-sama be more confident? Was his delays her fault? She didn't like those thoughts, hated feeling unsure. Her feet moved toward Naruto. He looked so different asleep. Peaceful and so young. Some part of her wanted to strangle the life out of him for implanting such doubts in her head. She crouched down and debated. He was a bad, evil boy, and his master made her betray Zabuza-sama. She had every right to hate them. Even if he knew pain like hers. Even if he had tried to care for her and even made her laugh. But would killing him help Zabuza-sama? Is that enough reason to do it? Did she want to kill this boy? When was the last time she asked herself what she wanted? It had been too long, at least for anything important. She was so tired and confused. Who was she? What was she? Her eyes burned. She wanted to be outside her head. She wanted. She didn't know. She didn't know anything. It scared her, to not know. The future felt open and shrouded. Her exhaustion, physically and emotionally, took over. She settled in beside Naruto. Chappie and she could hate Naruto after a nap. 12:15 a.m. Tazana's bridge. Gato's men had arrived just as they'd been ordered to do. The two ninja weren't fighting, simply talking. This wasn't the plan. They were supposed to exhaust each other first. Some of the men didn't care and believed their numbers would be enough. Others, having heard stories about shinobi, were less confident. All were on edge, their nerves running away from them. One man had an arrow knocked, but his arm was starting to tire. Then, in the background, an explosion was heard. It startled the man so much he shot his arrow. The projectile tore through the sky and all took it as the signal, but they waited, hoping the two shinobi would be distracted as well. Maybe the arrow would kill one of them, improving their odds even more. It was hard to track in the night, but many strained their eyes just to get a glimpse. It neared the two ninja, growing ever closer, and then it struck the ground, 20 feet from either target. I guess you were right, Kakashi. I've got some vermin to slay. Zabuza growled as he unleashed his killing intent. Kakashi simply channeled some chakra to a seal he had wrapped around his wrist. Zabuza was confused when he heard the men yelling and what sounded like numerous collisions. He ran toward the cowards that would dare double-cross him, just to see dozens of men struggling to break apart from each other. They were in a massive dogpile, all shouting to be free. Some had been impaled on their weapons, others injured as they were tossed into another person. The first part of Naruto's trap was an attraction seal. Each seal would be attracted to everyone like it within a certain range, and with such great force none of the men could fight it. Kakashi soon tired of their shouts of pain and distress, deciding to activate level 2. Soon, the bridge and the surrounding areas were quiet as Naruto's knockout array worked perfectly. This ended just how Kakashi liked, with bare minimum effort so he could still look cool. Zabuza could only summarize his current state in one way. What the fuck just happened? Elsewhere, Gato was terrified. He couldn't even bluster nor beg, his mind wouldn't form the words. His bodyguards and he were on their way to his ship, cash in tow. 20 feet from the ship's dock they watched as it exploded. Then, from the darkness these metal things flew and pierced Waraji and Zori in their arms and legs. The men were down, but their cries of pain were silenced when a swift kick to each of their heads. When Gato saw who prevented his escape, he realized it was a mere child. He was set to yell at the little punk because a chop to the back of his neck ended it. Moments later he was tied up with his men, who had been thoroughly disarmed, and they were being drugged like carcasses. It was over, he knew it. No amount of begging would save him. If his men found out he was going to abandon them, they'd turn on him as well. His life was over. At Tazunaz, Sakura, Naruto and Haku watched as 10 men were knocked out in a ball of human flesh. Sakura was amazed at the seal, having been given the controls. Haku, too, was impressed and wondered what the blonde's limits were. She was also thankful he seemed to prefer no lethal means, as she may be far worse off than she was. Naruto marveled at the tea. It was really good tea. He made note to ask Tsunami-san about it. Some might be surprised by his focus, but truthfully, seals were easy. Good tea, now that's hard. It wouldn't be morning until Tazuna and his family were informed Gato had been captured. Inari would round up the villagers, all willing to dispense justice on the tyrant. The danger had been neutralized, but Team 7 had to wait for the bridge to be finished. None seemed to mind. It may be boring from that point on, but how many people could say they managed to liberate a country in 2 days? Kakashi was pleased with the actions of his team, though Sasuke choosing to fight instead of using the seal was a little worrying. He knew before he took the mission he was going to keep them, but this made him all the more confident in his decision. And best of all, the thing that stood out the most? Chibi got an enemy Kunoichi to snuggle with him. He truly was the one. Team 7+1 stood inside the Hokage's office as the leader of Konoha read over Kakashi's report. The man's face was impassive, not giving one hint at what he may be thinking. Once he finished the scroll, he sat it down and steepled his fingers, looking at the lone jounin. Kakashi met his gaze. The copy ninja appeared more visibly resolute than he normally did, his own lackadaisical manner shelved for the moment. Is all of this true, Kakashi? Hi. Well done, Team 7. You are no longer provisional but full ninja of Konoha, congratulations. If you and Haku-san will excuse us, I'd like to have a word with Kakashi. As the team headed toward the door, the Sandaime stopped them. Oh, Naruto-kun? Yes, Oji-san? This startled the other members of Team 7. They'd heard Naruto speak about his Oji-san, but never had he referred to the Hokage as such in their presence nor given any hint that's who he was speaking of this entire time. Sai-kun and the regular escort will be on Training Ground 23 at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Hi. The team departed after that, Kakashi already informing them they would have 2 days off from training and missions. As they left, both the Sandaime and Kakashi saw Sasuke's reaction, a glint of suspicion that Naruto was receiving something the Uchiha hadn't. It didn't portend for great things in the immediate future, but that would have to wait for now. Kakashi, what were you thinking? You should have either cancelled or immediately called for backup as soon as those missing ninja attacked. I truly believed I could handle any unforeseen risks that would arise. Yes, but you didn't handle it. Tell me, if you didn't have a SEAL master on your team, how do you think this would have played out? I would have had to fight Zabuza as we entered Wave. Maybe I win, but with my concern for my students I couldn't go all out, and if his apprentice had attacked with him I could have been overwhelmed. Yes, this Haku person. She seems close to Naruto-kun and this doesn't seem to bother you. Those two grew closer during the mission. I made sure to watch them, Hokage-sama. She's not a threat, just a young woman trying to figure herself out. They did spend a lot of time together because for whatever reason they understand each other. And after years of being with Zabuza, he goes to Kiri but she comes here? She's not a killer. Zabuza knew it, I can see it. I suspect even you can pick up on that. I will allow this for now, but if this is some trick by Zabuza or Naruto-kun gets hurt, all responsible will know my displeasure. Kakashi's expression didn't change, but he shivered at the thought of the Sandaime's displeasure being expressed. It generally included fire. Lots of fire. How a lifetime smoker could have that great of lung capacity defied logic. I'm confident the last thing she wants is to harm Naruto, sir. I wouldn't put Minato-sensei's son at risk. Yes, from the report I can tell. What really made you call the clone off? Kakashi sighed before answering. I know each of my students will have to take a life eventually, but heat of combat and an assassination are different. They feel different, and there is generally a reason the former happens before the latter. I don't know how Naruto would handle it, and I think that's the main reason. I couldn't be sure he wouldn't be overwhelmed. I understand, Kakashi. The instinct to not throw them into the deep end is understandable, but situations change and you may not always have that choice. With all that being said, this was well done. I'll likely have Shikaku add this to the tuning seminars in the usage of basic techniques and advanced tactics. Yes, you trained Naruto well, Kakashi said with a hint of accusation. I have done almost nothing in terms of direct training of Naruto-kun. Hints? Stories or suggestions? Yes. But little beyond that. Why, what's the problem? My team is unbalanced. Gravely unbalanced. C ranks are supposed to push the team, but with Naruto, his sealing abilities and his mentality, they change things. If I allow him to operate at his full capacity, I sideline Sasuke and Sakura. If I hold Naruto back, the other two will get more direct experience but are also at greater, unnecessary risk. The question becomes, who do I stunt? I want my team to grow, but I truly underestimated how prodigious Naruto was. That seal he created to tag Gado's men, he finished it in an hour. I saw that. I will have to see about incorporating that into our entrances. Good way to stop infiltrators. I do see your point, Kakashi. The next C rank you wish to take, I'll have Naruto be unavailable and we can go from there. Kakashi nodded and was dismissed. Hiruzen thought about his grandson. It seemed the boy demonstrated his genius over the sealing arts ran deeper than any imagined on a regular occurrence. While great, Kakashi was right. Shinobi weren't meant to be masters over any shinobi art, not even prodigies could claim mastery. Hiruzen reasoned he might have to push Kakashi to enter his team into the upcoming Chunin exams. They were still a few months away, but Naruto-kun wasn't a Shinobi. The old man started running through plans, ways to ensure Naruto could be promoted, justly. He'd arrange for Danzo's agent to be more available. The boys really pushed each other and Hiruzen would look the other way as Danzo supplied Naruto-kun with more ninjutsu. He'd also have Jiraiya start to really put him through the ringer. Naruto-kun had done well training himself, but it was time to find and surpass his limits. He'd even increased the shadow clone limit. This, of course, would only further the gap between him and his teammates, but it was necessary. He didn't want to push his grandson too hard. Like Kakashi, he wanted to ease the boy into the lifestyle. But like Kakashi, he was trying to fight against an unstoppable wave. Naruto-kun wasn't someone that could stay hidden. His conversation with the daimyo and Madame Shijimi made that clear. The Chunin exams, they wouldn't be able to hide him after that. Haku and Naruto walked through the village. She discreetly observed the villagers and could see many did seem uncomfortable when they laid eyes on her friend. She thought it such a waste, what they were missing out on by keeping him at arm's length. She'd come to truly appreciate his presence as she was dealing with her developing sense of self and her relationship with Zabuza-sama. That she could sit in complete silence with him and not feel uncomfortable nor pressured to speak was a comfort. He never judged her, never demanded anything from her. It was welcomed. He even let her cry on his shoulder when she and Zabuza-sama agreed to part company. Her master had finally come clean, his delay in going back to Kiri being due to the humiliation of his defeat. How she had become his excuse, her unwillingness to kill a sign she wasn't ready. He'd used her as a way to not face himself and she'd done the same. It was a difficult discussion, but the first one they'd had as more than master and servant. He decided to return to his home, to fight for it whatever the state of the rebellion was in. It was reflexive, her desire to go with him, but there was another part of her that wanted something different. That wanted to learn more about herself and not be on the run or in the middle of a war. To her shock, Zabuza-sama understood and gave his blessing. That was a week after Gado's fall. After that, she spent more and more time with Naruto when he wasn't on duty. They'd train together, sit on the dock or walk around Nami. When she revealed her bloodline limit, Naruto was fascinated by it. So much so, he stayed up all night working on something, even summoning a small toad for help. The next day he showed her his work, having her channel some Hyotan chakra through a seal. The result? Shaved ice. What he had requested from the toad. Various fruits that could be made into syrups. They spent the day giving snow cones to the children. She found it endearing that his first thoughts weren't battle applications but a way to make people happy, even if it were just momentary. Haku? She replied, having been lost in thought. She'd simply followed Naruto without paying much attention. We're here, your room is next to mine. She didn't quite understand what he meant by that, as she assumed she'd stay with him for the short term, until she got on her feet. As they climbed the stairs they stopped at a plain-looking door. You have to channel chakra through the door knob, Naruto said. Haku did, and she watched an intricate seal appear on the door for a brief moment before the door unlocked and she walked through. The apartment was cozy. The living room had a blue couch and matching chair. A dark oak coffee table and television stand. There was a small kitchen table in between the living room space and the kitchenette. She walked toward one of the doors and saw it was a bedroom, the bed adorned with chocolate brown sheets and one nightstand. Chappie even had his own bed, as he was peacefully napping. She walked toward the closet and saw it full of women's clothes and shoes, all her size. The Yuki clanswoman was confused. And Naruto, where are your things? And did you do this? For me? Next door, this is your apartment. I had Gamakichi request Ino-chan's help, so she picked all of that out. Uro Dana put up the security seals. Remember when I had you channel chakra into that seal on our way here? It was so the security would recognize you as its primary users. Haku rushed over to the boy and hugged him. Thank you, Naruto. I'll pay you back as soon as I can. You don't have to. I own the building now, besides you're my friend, he said, as if that explained the entire world. She almost wanted to cry, having her own space to do with as she pleased. To have a home, it was almost overwhelming. Naruto simply hugged her back, not truly getting the significance of his gesture. She needed a place to stay, would likely want or need new clothes, so he took care of it. It was Urodana that recommended he buy his building. The building wasn't in his name, but that of his company, Uzunami. It even had a sealing subsidiary named Vortex Seals. It was an attempt to keep Naruto anonymous and keep any inquiring minds from investigating why a 12-year-old orphan was becoming obscenely wealthy in such a short time. It also helped hide the transfer of his inheritance and the IP of his parent seals to Naruto. Due to that, allowing Haku a room for however long she needed it simply wasn't a burden. Haku soon released the hug, wiping the unshed tears from her eyes. Naruto started for the door, but not before asking if she were up for meeting some of his friends later. She agreed and Naruto exited, only to see Urodana standing at his door. Urodana? He said and saw the sage lower his head. Gaki, you have to stop calling me that. But you said you were a super pervert in your introduction. Granted, but still, how am I going to get some ladies if you keep calling Master Pervert? Jiraiya watched Naruto stroke his chin. Were you getting ladies before I started calling you that? Why, you little brat, he exclaimed with no real heat, and Naruto cracked a small smile at his godfather's antics. He found the man amusing. I'm here on a mission, Gaki. Someone has some seal work I've never been able to decipher. I want you to check it out, and on the way you can tell me about your first C rank and this enemy Kunoichi you romanced. Romanced? I didn't romance anyone. I think you'd do better with women if you knew what romance meant, Jiraiya. Naruto spoke in response, looking at Jiraiya in mild confusion. I wrote the book on shinobi romance. Your female characters are underdeveloped. I swear, everyone's a critic, Jiraiya said in defeat as the two left the complex. Jiraiya led Naruto to a secure Anbu facility and guided the boy through the series of tunnels until they arrived at a sealing chamber. Jiraiya walked in, Naruto right behind with Anko sitting on a hospital bed. She was clearly surprised to see Naruto. What's the half-pint doing here, Jiraiya-sama? I don't want some amateur looking at my seal. Relax, Anko. Naruto is a certified seal master, the one sensei was telling you about. The one that invented this? She said, holding up her wrist to show the Fun bracelet. One and the same. Also, that is a secret, so please don't spread it around. Anko didn't seem sure. She knew Jiraiya wouldn't mess with her, not about this, but it was difficult to believe a newly minted Jinan could do something Asanin hadn't managed. However, beyond her misgivings, she was desperate to be free of the seal, and if the kid could help even slightly it would be worth it. Okay, Blondie, let's see what you can do. Naruto nodded and then approached. He performed a series of hand signs and then activated his projection screen as he watched the seal decompress. To Anko, it looked as if he were staring off into space, but Jiraiya had seen him assembly and disassembly seals through his projection to know the boy was already at work. Naruto checked over the elements of the seal, multiple times. It was a pretty complicated seal, and one of the reasons it was so hard to move, besides having a decent enough compression array, was it immediately grafted itself onto the chakra network. But that wasn't impossible to get around. It was the other elements that had Naruto confused, so when he muttered, "That's not right," he had the two adults in the room interested in what the Uzumaki was seeing. If they'd asked, Naruto would have told them. The seal had a stored consciousness within it, as well as another type of energy that Naruto didn't immediately recognize as chakra. It had limiters placed within the seal, to handle aggression as well as muscle activity, as if there was an expected increase in strength the body couldn't fully handle and would break down if it weren't capped in some way. There were some other things in here as well, such as a mild enhancement to one's healing rate and improvements to reaction time and awareness. However, Naruto came back to the limiters and control. Nothing within the seal could account for why they would be necessary or how that other energy was tapped into. There was no array that led to it, but he could tell the seal was meant to respond to it. It was a puzzle and Naruto wasn't happy. The blonde could feel he was missing something obvious, making an erroneous assumption, but he couldn't see what it was. It wasn't located in the seal, he'd been thorough in his analysis. While the seal was triggered by the inflicted chakra system, it only activated it. The seal was wholly complete as is. If it wasn't the seal itself, maybe it was the application. Anko-chan, how was this seal applied to you? I was bitten, she spat. That surprised Naruto, he'd never heard of a seal being applied from the mouth. He started thinking of why that would be. Seals materialized via chakra are generally done so by the hand. Could the bite be significant? Naruto wondered. He activated his diagnostic jutsu on the seal, having up to this point assumed it was either ink or chakra based. The diagnostic jutsu showed something else. It was a hybrid seal of chakra and some time of organic compound, one that must react to the stored energy. Naruto was dismayed at the idiocy of the seal. Organic compounds, enzymatic or otherwise, that can react and interact with chakra weren't new. Chakra poisonous wouldn't exist if they were. However, there is a reason chakra is comprised of yin and yang. Enzymes can destabilize chakra and the subsequent reactions essentially override the intentional aspects of human chakra. The control people have is gone, given over to a purely natural reaction, be it a corrosion of the chakra network or whatever this seal sought to do. Before Naruto could undo the seal, he'd need to find a way to neutralize the enzyme, but he'd have to identify the type of energy contained in the chakra first. He didn't know, but he hoped Jiraiya might. He called the Toad Sage over and gave him access to his projections, both the seals and the chemical breakdown of the sealing material. Jiraiya looked it all over before letting out a string of curses. Naruto waited for Jiraiya to finish, but Anko looked nervous, something Jiraiya picked up on. "Sorry, Anko, didn't mean to worry you. That idiot tried to make a Sage Mode seal, one that could incorporate Fuinjutsu into whoever was marked. That wouldn't work. The enzyme is volatile to the energy and due to the effects it leaves the host unable to regulate it as well," Naruto said. "Exactly. He must have dabbled with Fuinjutsu but never in any significant way. If I had to guess, whatever he managed to include in the seals wasn't perfectly balanced, which would only make things worse." "What does that mean? Can you not remove it after all?" Anko said in a slight panic. "If I can find a way to neutralize or even momentarily stabilize the enzyme, I can remove the seal." Naruto answered to a pair of wide eyes. "What? Gaki, you know a way to remove it?" "With the stipulation I put forward, I believe I do, yes. But I can't give a timetable. I don't want to give you false hope, Anko-chan. You haven't. I think we should get out of here and get to work. Don't want to leave a pretty lady in distress," Jiraiya said. "I will get to work, but I'd be just as committed if you weren't beautiful, Anko-chan." "I find that very reassuring, Blondie," Anko said with a laugh and watched as the pair departed. She understands the boy tried not to give her false hope, but it was hard not to imagine a future free of her seal, free of her past, free of Orochimaru. Naruto's mind was busy making plans as he exited the building with Jiraiya. He was going to have to shelve some of his projects until he figured this out. He summoned 20 clones to go to the hospital's labs to get to work on finding a counter to the enzyme. It also occurred to him that Jiraiya knew about the Fuinjutsu energy being utilized and may have a solution. He asked and Jiraiya grimaced. "I may, but I can't promise anything. Your best bet would be to continue down the path you're on. If you really can't come up with anything, I'll see what I can do." "Why wait? If your way doesn't work, that's one thing, but why leave it as a last resort? I don't understand." "It's complicated, Naruto. Just work on your end of things, get Tsunade and Shizune to help if you can. You're being elusive for no reason and delaying helping someone that needs it. If your reasons are as good as you say, you just tell me." "Naruto, I know this isn't easy, but just have faith," Jiraiya requested before leaving via a shunshine. Naruto had a small frown on his face, not believing this was entirely about Anko-chan's seal. Whatever it was, the Uzumaki didn't think it was worth the delay to free a fellow comrade. He put it out of his mind for now. He wanted to get some sleep before his plans for the night. Several hours later, Naruto and Haku were making their way to the Hyuga compound. Naruto was wearing a blue, V-neck shirt, black pants and blue sandals. Haku was in an aquamarine floral print kimono with black, low-heel sandals. The two were chatting, Naruto telling her a little more about Hinata and the Hyuga when they saw Ino just ahead of them, looking quite pained. The two increased their pace to catch up to the Yamanaka heiress. "Ino-chan, what's wrong?" Naruto asked. "Asuma-sensei has increased the intensity of our training," she replied, though straining a little. "Oh, I thought you said he was lazy. How did you convince him to train you more?" The Yamanaka blushed, to Naruto's confusion. She really didn't want to share the particular story as it wasn't an exact highlight of her career. "Asuma-sensei, you need to train us better. We're the weakest team of our graduating class." Ino nearly shouted, frustrated at Asuma's intransigence. She'd requested an increase in their training before, but he'd always just waved her off. "Ino, you're just a Jinan. I want to ease you guys into this lifestyle, not have you burn out. What's the rush?" "The rush? The rush is I will not lose my virginity to Hinata Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki because I was too weak to stand up to that little psycho." Ino panted out and then blushed. She went on to inform her team about what transpired and why she wanted to be stronger. Asuma, seeing this as a way to deny the Uzumaki a threesome, agreed. Naruto, aren't you going to introduce me to your guest? Ino said as a diversion. Oh, Yamanaka Ino-chan, this is Yuki Haku. It's nice to meet you, Ino-san. I understand I have you to thank for my wardrobe. Nice to meet you as well, and I'm glad you like it. It's not every day a toad with a wad of cash asks you to go shopping. Well, you have excellent taste, so I appreciate it. We're going to be great friends, Haku-san, I just know it. The now trio walked the rest of the way and was granted immediate entrance into the compound. As they followed their escort, they ran into the clan head, and Hinata's father, Hiyashi. Ino and Haku bowed and offered polite greetings. Naruto did not. Good evening, Hyuga Hiyashi-san. Hiyashi wanted to roll his eyes at the boy. How he managed to be formal like Minato and yet still give less than a shit about titles like Kushina was impressive. Some part of him wondered if he did it on purpose, but his face was as unreadable as any Hyuga. He felt he owed a debt to the Uzumaki for helping Hinata shed herself of her debilitating shyness, though the effects he's had on Hanabi have been less desirable. I will defeat you today, Uzumaki. Speaking of. Hiyashi just sighed, his little girl used to be so dignified. Hanabi, that is not how we greet guests in this house. She rolled her eyes. His little girl rolled her eyes. Greetings to you all, even you Uzumaki team. Hanabi, Hinata exclaimed from behind her father and sister both. She won't always be here to protect you, Hanabi said and left in a huff. Naruto, what did you do to her? Ino asked. I beat her in a staring contest. Seeing the look of disbelief on their faces, Naruto just shrugged, he didn't exactly understand it either. Come this way, dinner will be served soon, Hinata said, and Hiyashi watched as the young ninja went into a small dining room. He left them alone, instead choosing to talk to Hanabi about her crass behavior. The foursome settled in and shared dinner while exchanging stories. Ino and Hinata were both curious about Naruto's C rank, neither having been assigned one yet. Naruto relayed the details but made sure to include impressions and other things to make it more interesting, as several books on communication had suggested. He ended his story by focusing on the daughter and grandson of the client. So, she put together a picnic basket for Haku and I, and she hugged me a lot. She was really weird, Naruto concluded, to snickering from all the girls in the room. What? Naruto-kun, she was being motherly, and from what you said about Inari following you, she likely did so because her son found you so interesting. That was motherly? He got a trio of head nods. I guess it wasn't too bad. So, Haku, what are your plans? Ino asked. I honestly don't know. I haven't been able to be safe in one place for so long. I never imagined what I'd do if I did. I want to keep my skills sharp, but I don't know if I want to be a ninja. Without clan affiliation, that might be difficult. What about a reservist? You get the status, but you won't have to actively go on missions unless you want to. Ino suggested, and Haku smiled. That might work. I'll just need to find a job and then I'll be set. You can work with me, Haku. Naruto offered. He did need employees, after all. If I did, would you teach me Fuinjutsu? Naruto held out his hand. I believe we have an accord. No, fair, Naruto-kun. You never offered to teach me Fuinjutsu. Ino whined, only semi-joking. She'd come to know how good Naruto was at the art of sealing and wouldn't mind a few tips. The cold glare from Hinata warned her she may have pushed it too far. You never asked, Ino-chan. Naruto observed, wondering if Ino had a problem with voicing her desires, as she seemed to expect him to know she wanted things without ever saying it. She's just joking, Naruto-kun. Besides, with her extra training to protect your maidenhood, she wouldn't have the time. Ino gaped. How did the little psycho know that? The smile Hinata gave her, akin to the cat that eyed the canary, made her uneasy. She did, eventually, relax, and the rest of the evening went by without incident. Haku and Naruto departed first, thanking Hinata for hosting and bidding Ino and she good night. It was only Ino and Hinata left, and both girls felt the need to clear the air. Ino-chan, I'm not some crazed lunatic. I don't enjoy intimidating you, but Naruto-kun is my best friend and has helped me in ways I can never repay. When you complain about things he hasn't given you, it makes him think he missed something a normal person would have noticed. I won't let you make me think poorly of himself, Ino sighed. She really hadn't considered how her teasing would be interpreted by Naruto. She had come to genuinely like him and had gotten used to how he was, to the point she'd sometimes forget he could be hurt by her being insensitive. You're right. I do consider Naruto a friend, and I think we can be as well if you stop scaring the hell out of me. I can try, Ino, but it won't work if you think poorly of me. You mean the psych? Like, why do you think I'd share your first time? Hinata giggled as she walked back into the compound, Ino staring in horror at the gates before cracking a smile. It appeared while she may not be able to tease Naruto just yet, the Hyuga was down to play. She smiled all the way home at the prospect of having another female friend, not really having one since Sakura and she fell out. Tenzo overlooked his charges as they were engaged in a fearsome battle. It made the longtime Onbu agent smile, recalling his early days of hard training with his peers, pushing each other to be better. The boys' sessions had become increasingly intense, but there was an undercurrent of trust. They never injured each other in any significant way, so them pushing their limits together was fine. It was difficult to accurately judge Sai's full skill set as he was trained by Danzo-sama, but he could tell Naruto was growing by leaps and bounds, even with his resistance seal still active. The boys were exchange fists with fluid movement. One would strike, the other would parry and counter-strike, only for that to be dodged. Time and time again, it was a ballet of violence. However, Sai managed to sneak in a right hook that sent Naruto tumbling back. The Root wasted no time in pursuing his target, but Naruto was not as open as Sai had expected. Sai leapt in with a kick, which Naruto avoided. Sai landed and pivoted, unleashing a roundhouse. Naruto narrowly dodged the attack and the follow-up roundhouse, retaliating with a spin kick of his own. Sai was hit on the chin and sent flying. Naruto came in with a flying stomp, but Sai rolled out of the way, retrieving a kunai as he did. He rushed back in and the exchange of hands continued. Sai came in with an overhead stab. Naruto used his opposite hand to perform a slap block on Sai's wrist, causing Sai's grip to loosen. Naruto slid his hand up and swatted the kunai into the air, continuing his offense by punching at Sai 3 times. The 2 palm strikes landed, the third was interrupted when Sai kicked Naruto away and smoothly caught his kunai. Not stopping his motion, Sai performed a leg sweep, taking Naruto off his feet. The Uzumaki didn't rest, predicting another attack. He performed a handstand and spun away from Sai's offensive, coming to his feet and having taken out his own kunai from his leg holster. The boys were engaging again, sparks from where their kunai met visibly to any that watched. In a moment of improvisation, Naruto jumped at Sai, placing both hands on his shoulders while perform a handstand and continuing to flip over the Root Ninja. He landed behind Sai and mule kicked him. Sai tumbled forward but was able to meet Naruto's charge and toss the blonde on the ground. Naruto responded with a kick to Sai's midsection and it back him off, giving Naruto a chance to attack some more. Sai, mimicking Naruto, performed a side flip over the charging blonde and hit Naruto in the face when he turned to face Sai. Naruto returned with a jumping front kick, clipping Sai in the chin and then performed a series of hand signs, unleashing a wind-style, great breakthrough jutsu. Sai dodged the attack and closed the distance between Naruto and he, hitting Naruto in the solar plexus, following with a kick to the midsection and ending with his kunai pointed at his downed opponent. Naruto looked up and nodded at Sai, acknowledgement of his defeat, and the Root Ninja helped up his friend. The two made the seal of reconciliation and then flopped on the ground. Do they normally go that hard? Kakashi asked as he sat beside Tenzo, eye on his book, but Tenzo knew his senpai had seen every second of the spar. It's been escalating as Naruto has improved. Are you concerned? About Naruto's safety? No, you wouldn't be here unless Sandaime-sama ordered it, so I trust he isn't in any danger. But he is much better at direct combat than I thought. Kakashi mused. He knew Naruto was physically superior to his teammates, but he still assumed Sasuke had the technical advantage. It appeared that was no longer the case. Just more evidence his team was unbalanced. So, what will they do now? It depends. Sometimes it is ninjutsu training, sometimes it devolves into a book club, and other times they work on their respective art. As Tenzo was answering, he sensed a presence approaching. While quiet, said person was not quiet enough to avoid Onbu detection. He saw it was a long-haired young woman, mid-teens at the oldest, holding a snow rabbit. She had on a dark blue shirt and skirt to match. Good morning, Naruto. And Sai, I presume? Good morning, Haku. Hello, Haku-san. Naruto spoke of you briefly, but you are not what I expected, Sai said. Oh, I hope I haven't disappointed. No, not disappointed. It's just, with Hinata-san, Shizune-san, and Tsunade-sama, I assumed Naruto preferred his women bustier. Haku showed no hesitation in throwing several scene bomb at Sai, most hitting his legs and making the Root Ninja collapse. Haku wore a frown, but it was undercut by her light blush. I guess that was something I shouldn't have said, Sai concluded and saw Naruto nod in agreement. Besides, I like Haku's breasts. Haku's blushed increase and Naruto would swear he heard stifled laughs coming from the trees. He just ignored it, carefully moving the senbone from Sai and hoping this wouldn't become a repeat occurrence. Hiruzen looked at Naruto intently, as if some hidden secret lied just beneath the boy's emotionless gaze. Truly, he was just happy that his grandson didn't ask him another sex question, He could do without that for a while, though him having sex questions and going to Jiraiya or Kakashi scared him. However, those concerns could wait for another time. Naruto had requested Hiruzen's advice on something the professor was quite experienced in, teaching. As Naruto explained it, this Haku girl wanted to be his assistant as well as a reservist in the Ninja Corporation. One condition was Naruto would teach her Fuinjutsu. A reasonable request and a skill that would take years to master, unless that is, Naruto was also a genius at teaching Fuinjutsu. Hiruzen didn't know if he should hope he was or pray that he wasn't. As Hiruzen gathered his thoughts, he reminisced about his time teaching his team. It was truly one of the best times of his life, even if it ultimately ended in one of his greatest regrets. He shook off the morose thoughts and finally answered Naruto. Well, Naruto-kun, teaching is truly one of the most difficult tasks to undertake, and it is often the case the easier you find a subject the harder it is for you to teach it. Your intuitive grasp on the subject blinds you to the areas other people struggle with. It can take time to find your teaching style, but also learn to be adaptive enough to the learning styles of your students. It shames me to say this, but I initially was not a very good sensei to Jiraiya-kun because of that very dynamic. What do? Communicate. Explain things as you understand them, but listen to what Haku has absorbed. It is often the case that what we are teaching and what our chargers learn are not the same, but if you are patient with each other and diligent, I believe you can be an excellent instructor. Just be patient with your student and yourself, and know if you run into difficulties you can come to me or seek advice from Tsunade or Jiraiya, as they both have years of teaching complex, highly technical disciplines. Or Hatake-sensei? Yes, even him, Hiruzen replied with a chuckle. Naruto nodded. Now, how is your other project going? Not well, Naruto said evenly, but Hiruzen could read a level of frustration in his words. It had only been 2 weeks, but even with Tsunade's help, they hadn't been able to find a counteragent to the compound. Keep at it, Naruto-kun. I know you want to help Anko, but don't burn yourself out in the attempt, okay? I'll try, Oji-san. Good, my boy. Now, as you know, you'll be touring the facility that makes your Fun bracelets at the end of the week. The rest of your team will be taking a C rank during that time, but I have a special jounin assigned to escort you. Naruto had requested to see the facility, and Hiruzen figured the boy could update the security while there. He would send Jiraiya, but the man was out collecting intelligence. Besides, Hiruzen had seen the tension between his student and grandson and figured Jiraiya was giving Naruto space. Naruto nodded again and then departed, saying goodbye to his Oji-san as he made his way to Ichiraku Ramen. Hatake-sensei had given him a few days off as he focused on Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto didn't mind, he had plenty of people to train with. One such person was actually sitting at the ramen stand as he arrived. Hello, Haku. Sorry, if I'm late. Hi, Naruto-kun, you aren't, I'm just early. As Naruto sat, he saw Ayame approach with a smile on her face. Welcome, Naruto-kun. What will you have to today? Hello, Ayame-san. Naruto never got to finish as the girl leapt halfway across the stand and grabbed his cheeks, pulling them in opposite directions. Ayame-nichan, she said slowly. Hi, Ayame-nichan. Good, now, what will you have? The usual, Naruto said as he rubbed his cheeks. Haku giggled as it was the most childlike she'd ever seen her friend. It didn't surprise her, as Naruto frequented the ramen stand regularly and the young woman before her was also warm and inviting, especially with Naruto. Haku knew there was a story there but would ask later. She just enjoyed seeing Naruto be treated like a normal 12-year-old from time to time. Tsunade entered her office, her mind abuzz. It had been one of several therapy sessions and she always needed time to decompress afterward. It was difficult to fight the regret of not having done this sooner, as it didn't take long to uncover it was more than just the deaths of Dan and Nawaki that weighed on the last Senju. While she did still mourn them and feel like a failure, there were layers to her grief. She often felt like a hypocrite, not being able to move on from their deaths when she was one of the most prolific killers in modern shinobi history. How many lovers and siblings did she take from people? How many grieving family members did she send to the bottom of an endless bottle because drunken stupors hurt less than sobriety? How could she be lauded as a medic with so much blood on her hands? She'd existed in a duality, one most medics after her could avoid. She felt alone in many respects, as the fractured parts of herself were in constant conflict. At least, they were before. It was not fast, healing the mind didn't happen instantly, but slowly Tsunade was finding a way to become whole again, to accept all of her, good and bad. She'd already almost overcome her hemophobia, projecting a return to surgery soon. She'd even been seriously training with Shizune again, allowing herself to feel genuine joy and not have it torn asunder by overwhelming guilt. The Senju started on her paperwork, thankful her burden wasn't anywhere near her sensei's. She worked methodically, paying attention to the budgeting reports, preliminary plans for the medic training program and the new security clearances. Those had been slow, medics taking a backseat to the frontline Jounin and Onbu, but progress was being made and most of the senior staff had been cleared. Tsunade heard a knock at the door and gave permission to enter. She smiled to see it was Shizune on the other side, with Tauntaun strutting in at her feet. "I figured you might want some tea before you started your day, Tsunade-sama," Shizune said before placing the mug down on the desk of her longtime teacher. "Thank you, Shizune." "Oink. And you, too, Tauntaun," Tsunade said with a laugh. "How was your session?" Shizune inquired. "Hard but good. I only wish I'd done this sooner, things could have been different," Tsunade lamented. "Things can be different now, I like to focus on that." "That's very wise, Shizune, how'd that happen?" "I had a good teacher. She showed me what not to do." "Har har har. Keep it up and I might start telling people how you cried when you couldn't revive the fish." "Tsunade-sama, that's not remotely true," Shizune protested, and Tsunade simply shrugged. "It doesn't have to be true to be believed." Tsunade expected Shizune to back down, but the dangerous glint in her student's eyes warned that wouldn't be the case. "Do that and I'll tell you've started reading Icha Icha." "You wouldn't." "I would, Tsunade-sama." "Fine, but one day I will get legitimate blackmail material on you," Tsunade threatened, frustrated that throughout their years she'd never caught Shizune doing anything legitimately embarrassing. Shizune laughed it off as she departed from the office. Having the goods on a Sanin was fun. "They don't look like much," Tenten observed, dryly. Ma, Tenten-chan, they're still fresh." "You remember when you were just a few months out from the academy, yes?" Kakashi asked but didn't expect an answer. He was glad he'd forced Sakura to train with Naruto in the mornings, or this may have truly been a sad sight. Kakashi requested a replacement Jinan for the upcoming mission, and Guy was kind enough to volunteer his soul kunoichi to the cause. Kakashi appreciated it as she was well trained, disciplined and normal, unlike his other two students. "Cha, who the hell are you?" Sakura yelled. "Tenten, member of Team 9 and future weapons mistress. I'm a little offended you don't know, your other teammate offers to bed me but doesn't talk about me? I feel unappreciated." "Kakashi, why is she here?" Sasuke asked in his usual blunt manner. "We'll be taking another C rank at the end of the week, only without Naruto. Tenten-chan will be replacing him. She'll train with us for a few days so we can all get to know each other." "HN? What does HN mean?" "Look, I've already got one pretty boy Prodigy to adapt to, I'm not learning a new language for you. Use whole words," Tenten said and meant it. She may like Neji, but he could also be trying, and she didn't care enough about the Uchiha to go through that. Sasuke was simply surprised a girl around his age told him off, slightly or otherwise. He decided he didn't like it. "I don't take orders from second-rate kunoichi." Sasuke immediately felt something cool move swiftly across his cheek, and then the sting associated with a cut while hearing a thud. He turned to see a kunai lodged into the tree behind him. He turned back around to face Tenten, a scowl forming on his face, and saw she had several more kunai in each hand. "I don't take shit from rookies," Tenten started before a smirk formed on her lips, especially not from those who aren't even the strongest on their team. She suspected the Uchiha was a lot like Neji, too much pride to be controlled but just enough to be manipulated. Sasuke accepted the unspoken challenge and charged at the older kunoichi. Kakashi allowed them to hash out their differences but would prevent serious injury to either party, should the need arise. Until then, he had a book to read. A minute into the impromptu spar and Sasuke was frustrated. Tenten negated his speed and taijutsu by keeping him at a distance. Every strategy he used to get closer was negated, and he was littered with small nicks and cuts. It was as if she'd seen it all before and just knew where to throw those damn kunai. He was losing his patience and considering unleashing some fire jutsu to teach her a lesson. Instead, he conceded. He had, initially, insulted her and she'd proven herself. He hated losing, but there was no point in escalating this further, not when he was wrong. "I give, you win. And I'm sorry for insulting you," Sasuke said, and the kunoichi nodded in recognition, neither taunting nor gloating. "That was quite the display. It appears we'll have to start training you on how to deal with long-range opponents, Sasuke-kun," Kakashi said, having just joined them. "Now, patch yourself up and take a short break. We'll start our team training in 10 minutes. Haku was impressed at the quantities Naruto managed to consume at the small ramen stand, though none of the other parties in attendance found it remarkable in the least, treating it as normal. The duo left the stand, after settling the tab and Naruto making sure to address Ayame appropriately lest he wanted his cheeks pinched again. Haku followed Naruto as he opted to take her to his preferred training ground for her first lesson. The two moved in companionable silence, but something was tempting Haku to tense. She couldn't put her finger on it, but she felt she was being watched, something at the edge of her perception. It didn't have the feel of seasoned shinobi, but years with Zabuza-sama had taught her to trust her feelings. She didn't have to wait long as three slow-moving blurs made their way directly toward them. Naruto made two clones in response and snatched all three out the air, maneuvering them into piggyback rides. "Ni-chan," a small boy said excitedly. "Boss." The other two cheered. "Haku, this is Kono-chan and these are his friends Moegi and Udon. You three, say hello to Haku." "Hi, Haku-san," the three greeted in unison. "Oh, so you're the notorious prankster trio. Naruto-kun has told me about your exploits." All three gained a slight blush at her words. "You talk about us, Nii-kun?" "Yes," Naruto said as his clones, and he continued on to the training ground. "Why are you three not at the academy?" "We didn't have class today," Konohamaru answered. "You know, I'll check with Iruka-sensei, yes?" "Hi. I wouldn't lie to you." Again, Konohamaru said, recalling the one time he was less than honest with Naruto. It wasn't a pleasant experience and he swore to himself to never do it again. "Besides, I never get to see you anymore. I send a clone for you regularly, Kono-chan." "It's not the same," the young Sarutobi said in protest. He didn't want a clone, he wanted his big brother. I'll keep that in mind." "Yay. So, what are you going to teach us today?" "Actually, I have plans with Haku, so I can't teach you anything today. Maybe they could join us since it'd just be the basics." Haku offered after seeing the three children start to pout. Naruto said nothing as he considered her alternative. "I could, but if I'm going to teach you three Fuinjutsu, you have to promise me to practice your calligraphy every day and never set off a seal without allowing me to check over it first." "Deal," Konohamaru said, answering for the trio. "Okay, hold on," was all the warning the kids got as the three Narutos performed a shunshine with Haku following close behind. "You gotta teach me how to wield those. I ain't gotta do nothing. Please." "No. Guys, back me up here," Ino shouted. Team 10 were returning from a C-rank mission. It was a simple mission. Messengers from a private delivery service had been ambushed multiple times along various roadways. Team 10 was supposed to trigger one and gain intel on if someone was selling information or organizing the bandits themselves. Somehow, word got to the party in question as they had far greater numbers for Team 10. While all members had to fight, Asuma dispatched of most of the enemy with his knuckle knives. Ino was instantly enamored and proceeded to request, beg, and plead with Asuma to teach her. He'd been unwilling to do so. "Troublesome, I want no part in this," Shikamaru stated. "I don't see the harm, Asuma-sensei," Choji replied. "See, Choji is on my side." "Yay, don't care. You don't need these, besides it is highly unlikely you have a wind or lightning affinity." "So what?" Ino shouted. She couldn't understand why it was so difficult to get this man to teach her things. She didn't have any offensive ninjutsu yet or defensive. She was getting better with her taijutsu, but this would certainly give her a leg up. "Ino, there is no need to rush. Firm up your basics before you start adding on new things," Asuma answered. He saw the Yamanaka start to retort before she stopped herself. "How about a bet?" "A bet? Yep. If in our next training sessions I can beat both Shikamaru and Choji at the same time, you'll teach me how to use those knives." "And what do I get if you lose?" "What do you want?" "You have to clean my apartment for a month, laundry included." "It's a deal." "I have no incentive to participate in this," Shikamaru points out. "You only think I'm troublesome, Shika. You want to see what that looks like when I try?" Ino asked, threateningly. "What a drag. Buy me some barbecue and I'm good," Choji added. "I'm sorry your lesson got interrupted, Haku." "It was fine, Naruto-kun. I feel I still learned a lot even with you helping them, besides it's cute how much they look up to you." "They do?" Naruto asked in mild confusion. "I think so, especially Konohamaru. It wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to learn Fuinjutsu simply because he knows his big brother is good at it." "But shouldn't he want to do things he's good at?" "Yes, but sometimes when you care about someone and admire them you want to do some of the things they do. I'll never be a Kenjutsu user, but my stealth and silent killing skills are due to Zabuza-sama. I wanted to learn the things he excelled at." "Oh," was all Naruto could say to that. He could somewhat relate. His Oji-san was his inspiration for wanting to be the Hokage someday, but he just assumed he had to do it his own way. Although the more he thought about it, the more he realized his various sensei weren't just teaching him skills, but the skills they trained hard to perfect, the things they felt were important. "So, it's like a legacy?" Naruto asked. "Exactly, and no matter what you do, a small part of you lives on through your students and their students. Because of you, There may always be people who understand Fuinjutsu as a way for chakra to communicate with the world and not just a method of fighting. I think I like that, Naruto said after giving it some thought. Would you teach me something? I can, but why? Because that way, no matter what, I'll always have a part of you and spread your legacy. That's very sweet, Naruto-kun. Naruto looked back at her mildly puzzled. He wasn't trying to be sweet, but he shrugged. He'd have to ask his Oji-san about that later. The two continued until they reached their respective apartments, both bidding farewell. Haku would spend the day thinking about what to teach Naruto. Naruto would split his time preparing for the new mission and trying to unravel the last mystery of Anko's cursed seal. Green eyes stared into blue, neither blinking. Inoiki was not at all pleased to see the Uzumaki darken his door. That the boy seemed completely unbothered by Inoiki's stern gaze only added to his annoyance, but what put Inoiki over the top was Naruto's answer to Inoiki's question. I'm here for your daughter, Yamanaka Inoiki-san. Oh, and would you like to pay a visit to my wife after you finish up? Inoiki questioned, sarcastically. Naruto, however, didn't answer, wondering if Mrs. Yamanaka had a sealing or medical-related need, but simply walked past the clan leader. Hinata messaged him saying Ino was in need of assistance, so he came over immediately. Seeing he wasn't going to answer, Inoiki spoke again. Ino is in her room, upstairs and to the left. Thank you, Yamanaka-san, the Uzumaki said before departing to his final destination. When arrived to Ino's room, knocking at the closed door, he was mildly surprised when the door flew open and a near-frantic Ino pulled him into her bedroom and deposited him on her bed. He saw Hinata give a smile, but it wasn't her normal smile, so he didn't know if this was amusing or what. I am glad you're here, Naruto-kun. I'm in need of assistance and Hinata-chan said you would be able to provide it. I said Naruto-kun might have an idea to help you since your mouth got you in trouble, Ino-chan, the Hyuga corrected. Same diff, Ino replied while shrugging, and then immediately returned to her near-panic state. As Hinata said, you're my only hope, said declaration caused Hinata to stare at Ino blankly, wondering if the girl had the power to deny reality as she saw fit. Naruto simply sat in silence. Ino, having gotten a little more familiar with Naruto speak, which included a lot of silence and blank stares, concluded he was waiting for her to tell him the actual problem as his presence signaled his willingness to try to help. She learned Naruto didn't state the obvious. Okay, so here's my problem. On our most recent C-rank mission some things went pear-shaped. We handled it, but during combat, I saw Asuma-sensei using these knuckle knives and it looked so cool. Of course, I begged him to teach me. I mean, I'm so behind. Even Forehead Girl might be getting ahead of me since she trains with you, right? Sakura-san's rate of progress has been within the range of expectation. See, that's totally Naruto-kun speak for that walking billboard is getting stronger. I just want an edge, an ace that no one suspects, and it would aid in my taijutsu. These are all good points, Ino-chan, but I don't see how I can convince Asuma-san to train you. Oh, no, that's not what I need help with. I challenged Asuma-sensei. I said if I could beat with Shikamaru and Choji at the same time he'd have to train me and he agreed. The problem is, Shikamaru is sick smart, maybe even smarter than Sakura and you. Choji is a sweetheart but he's a tank. I could wail on him all day and he wouldn't really feel it. Only Sasuke-kun, Kiba and you were able to actually hurt him in the academy. Separately they'd be a challenge, but together, I'm totally screwed. I was hoping you'd have some advice or maybe a super seal to win it for me. So what do you say? Want to whip out that ink and paper for your dear Ino-chan? When is your challenge? Naruto asked. 3 days, Asuma-sensei gave us 2 days off and we settled a bet on our return. So, will you help me? Yes, Naruto started, only to be interrupted. But I won't give you any seals, the Uzumaki finished. What? Why? Come on, you could totally trap them in something or other, it'd be easy, Ino whined. Possibly, but this is not my challenge, Ino-chan, it is yours. This is a chance for you to improve and I wouldn't be a good friend if I took that away from you. Ino wanted to beg some more, but the slight hint of smugness on Hinata's face told her all she needed to know. You knew he'd say no, didn't you? Yes, Hinata answered, not hiding her pleasure, but it doesn't mean we can't help you, Ino-chan. We just won't solve your problem for you. Ino huffed before resigning herself. Fine, what can I do? What are the rules of this challenge, Ino-chan? Probably just standard sparring rules. Asuma-sensei didn't stipulate anything before we left. Oh, okay. Then the challenge has already started, Naruto observed, causing Ino to look at him in apparent confusion. No, Naruto-kun, we fight Friday. No, you only have to appear to win on Friday, Ino-chan. That doesn't mean you can't take steps to secure your victory in the meantime. Ideally, both Shikamaru and Choji should be doing the same. But it's just a spar. No, Ino-chan, it's an assassination mission with the requirement the client watch you make the kill at a specific time. Wha? Outside of your agreement with Asuma-san and the laws of Konoha, you are free to act without violating the terms of your agreement. It would be irresponsible of you not to seek every advantage, Ino-chan. As Myoji-san says, if a shinobi finds themselves in a fair fight, they've done something wrong. Ino gaped at Naruto's words, wondering if this is how he thought about things, seeing training through the lens of future missions or the ethics of a shinobi. The statement was brief, but the effects would be profound. Ino felt small and immature, wondering if that was why Asuma-sensei didn't want to train her more. She was too linear, too small in her thinking. She was worried about winning on the day of the spar. It was stupid, the reasoning of an academy student. Of course, he wouldn't want to teach her intermediate skills, she was still pretending to be a ninja. She should have seen the fight as occurring the very moment Asuma-sensei agreed to the bet. And worst yet, she expected her friend to just solve her problem so she could get what she wanted. The Yamanaka heiress hung her head in shame, much to Naruto's confusion. Hinata, however, knew exactly what was happening as she was quite familiar with the looks of shame and self-criticism present in Ino's body language. Ino jumped a little when she felt arms encircle her but quickly eased into the hug. It's okay, Ino-chan. Of our graduating class, Shino-kun is likely the only other one to come to such a conclusion. We're still learning and you've done nothing wrong. I didn't mean to make you feel bad, Ino-chan, Naruto added. He had thought he was helping but was concerned he might have done the opposite. You did, you have. I'm just embarrassed I've been so immature about this. Could you stay a little bit and help me brainstorm a plan? Of course, Ino-chan. The trio would stay in Ino's room and listen to her formulate plans, only offering feedback. This went on for 20 minutes before Naruto's eyes briefly glazed over. That was followed by Inoiki storming into the room, red-faced and breathing heavily. The man looked apoplectic. Get out, you damn brat. Get out right now. The Yamanaka clan head started shouting, only to be cut off by his wife. Inoiki, you leave that sweetheart of a boy alone. Daddy, why are you yelling at Naruto-kun? He's been here the entire time. He was in my bedroom with your mother. The two heiresses turned to look at Naruto, who didn't seem all that concerned about the jounin yelling at him. He assumed his friends wanted an explanation and he didn't mind as he'd only done what Inoiki-san asked on him. As Naruto got to the top of the stairs, he created a shadow clone. If Inoiki-san's wife needed help, it wouldn't do to make her wait. Assuming Inochi-san's bedroom was at the opposite end of the hallway, Naruto sent the clone that way and continued on to his initial destination. The clone traveled a short distance to the presumed bedroom and knocked. Why yes? Was the pained response. Hello, Yamanaka-san, I'm Uzumaki. Naruto and Inoiki-san requested I see about you. Oh, then come in, she responded and Naruto entered. The room was dark, on the light of a dimmed lamp shone, but Naruto could see the Yamanaka propped up on the bed, looking on in discomfort. Naruto didn't hesitate to follow the protocols instilled in him by Tsunade-sensei and Shizune-senpai. As I stated, I am Uzumaki Naruto and am currently a C-rank medical ninja. Can you tell me what seems to be bothering you, Yamanaka-san? Amiko, dear. Hi. And what's bothering me is my back. This is all so silly. I was reaching down to pick something up and felt an intense pain in my lower right side. It was agony for the first 2 days, now it is simply mind-numbing. I told Inoiki-kun I just needed a few days rest, not a trained medic. Not even one of Ino's cute friends, saying the last part with a wink. Naruto smiled in response before continuing. How long ago was the initial incident? 3 days ago. Do you ever feel numbness or shooting pain in your legs? Only if I stand too long. I know this will not be comfortable, but do you think you could roll over on your stomach so I can check your back? Amiko, with Naruto's help, removed the covers from her, revealing she was in a floral print nightgown. She winced as she rolled over but managed to do so. Naruto activated his diagnostic jutsu and it confirmed his suspicion. You've herniated a disc in your lower back, Amiko-san. Oh, can you do anything? Yes. It is not severe enough to require surgery and is therefore within my current skill level. One problem is that while bed rest is initially good, after a day or two it becomes harmful. The muscles in your back have tightened and tense, making you stiff. That will prolong the recovery time. I can help with that too, but I would need you to expose your back to me. And I'll feel better when you're done? Hi. I would only suggest you follow up with another medic tomorrow as they may undergo further healing or recommend physical therapy. Okay, let's do it. Would you like a towel or a sheet to cover your lower body? And no, that won't be necessary, Naruto said no more as he gently lifted the back of Amiko's nightgown and exposed her lower back and cotton panties. Naruto noticed she had 2 dimples above her butt and thought it an attractive feature. He made a note to apologize to Haku for being skeptical about her aversion of showing her lower back. He also, idly, wondered if Ino-chan would develop similar features as she aged, assuming she hadn't had them already. None of these thoughts lasted long, nor did they delay Naruto from his responsibilities. He started treatment immediately, engaging a healing jutsu, though not the fabled mystic palm technique as he hadn't received the proper rank to learn it yet. However, due to the potency of his chakra and the Fuinjutsu enabled fine chakra control, even basic healing jutsu worked faster for him than most. In only 10 minutes the disc had been repaired and Naruto started on relaxing her muscles with a therapeutic massage. Naruto started on Amiko's lower back before slowing, sending his hands up the outside of back and gently down either side of her spine. He did this for several minutes until he felt the muscle groupings in her back had warmed up, and then he focused on any sources of tension or knotting he could find, gentle working them loose. He knew he was on the right track as Amiko would offer hums or coos of pleasure. When Naruto ran across a particularly tough knot at her shoulder blades, Amiko encouraged the blonde to be a little more forceful. "Yes, right there, Naruto-kun. Don't be shy," were the words Inoiki heard as he entered his bedroom, only to be followed by an ah. As his wife sounded as if something deeply satisfying had occurred. Seeing a small blonde on top of his wife was the final spark to Inoiki's temper. "What the hell are you doing to my wife, boy?" "Paying her a visit, as you requested," Naruto said neutrally, a little confused at Inoiki's surprise. That only further incensed Inoiki, who was about to start yelling at the blonde. Naruto, remembering Shizune-senpai told him that sometimes family members would delay treatment as they became emotional, decided to restrain the confusing clan leader. Inoiki didn't notice the paralysis and suppression seals forming in the room until after they had latched onto him. The part of him that was still objective was impressed the boy could manifest seals with his feet. Every other part of him found the little blonde bastard to be smug and arrogant. Naruto returned to his patient, asking her about her current pain level. There was none. He requested she stand, and she did with no problem. He then repeated his request she seek another medical ninja tomorrow before dispelling, ending the restriction seals placed on Inoiki. The man wasted no time charging to Ino's room, ready to strangle that Uzumaki. It took Ino and Amiko both to calm Inoiki down, as the respective Yamanaka women believed he was being irrational. This feeling was only solidified by the facts that Inoiki asked Naruto to go to Amiko and the blonde did help her. He, begrudgingly, apologized for his behavior as he escorted Naruto and Hinata out. Naruto then offered to walk Hinata home and the Hyuga gladly accepted. The pair walked in silence for much of the way to the Hyuga compound until Hinata spoke as they turned on the final street. "Naruto-kun?" "Yes, Hinata-chan? It was nice of you healing Amiko-san, but you shouldn't give your services away for free." Hinata watched as Naruto tilted his head to the side in thought before donning a small smile briefly. "In a sense, she did pay me." "Oh, and what's your going rate?" Hinata asked, the duo approaching the main entrance to her compound. "She let me see her panties." Hinata stopped right at her gate, the Hyuga guards holding their greeting. Naruto couldn't place the look on her face initially until it became one of resolve. "Well, that might be a problem should I ever need your medical skills." "Oh, why so?" Naruto asked. Hinata, without hesitation, leaned close and whispered in Naruto's ear, "Because I don't wear any." She swiftly turned on her heels and entered her home. "Uzumaki-san, are you okay?" one of the guards asked as the boy merely stood before them with a half-lidded gaze. "Databayo," was his only response before he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Grunts of exertion could be heard as Haku attempted to see to her duties. Just as she was diligent in being Zabuza-sama's tool, she'd be the very best assistant she could for Naruto-kun. It was why she was here, dressed in a dark blue kimono, with a mesh shirt underneath, open-toed heels similar to Tsunade's and her new headband holding back her onyx locks. "You, personally, have a light day today, Naruto-kun. After training with Sakura-san, you have a couple of hours free before your first meeting." Haku heard as a shadow clone needs Sakura in the stomach. "The construction crew?" Naruto continued, seemingly unbothered by his teammates' grunt of pain. "Hi, the construction crew. As a reminder, this is them pitching you, so they will do most of the talking, but I did leave a note card with a few questions you may want to ask them on your desk. Speaking of, have you considered renting office space? Working out of your apartment may become untenable given what all you do. I plan to have one built during the building remodel, along with a ceiling chamber." "Makes sense. The meeting shouldn't last more than an hour. After that, Shizune-san has requested you make a personal appearance to the hospital in addition to the clones you normally send, not in replacement of. I made sure to ask. Did she give any specifics? No, but she said it shouldn't interfere with your availability for anything else today. Okay, what else? You have that last meeting scheduled at 1, but there is still time to cancel. Haku attempted to caution but was, uncharacteristically, interrupted. He has been given a chance to be straight with me, Haku. I understand, Naruto-kun, but I still think this might be going too far. No one is getting hurt by what I'm doing. He can't make the same claim. To your knowledge, but you don't know that, on either claim. True, but I will continue on, Haku sighed but proceeded. After that, the rest of your day is cleared for training. I will start your Senbone training at 2, Sai-san will be free at 4 o'clock. Anything else? Your clones are scheduled to dispel, some at 3, some at 6, and the last at 9. Okay. Will you be free for dinner tonight? Chappie and I will arrive at 8, Haku said with a smile. Arg, damn it, Naruto, Sakura yelled, getting up off the ground and marching over to her teammate. The shadow clone dispelled and Naruto got the memories of her performance. What's the problem, Sakura-san? The problem is I'm here to train with you, not some freaking clone. Also, what's your problem with me? Why was that thing being so hard on me today? You kept leaving the same hole in your stance. I've pointed it out before but you've yet to correct it, so I thought maybe a direct consequence could help. Better I do than an enemy. Besides, since I will not be on your upcoming mission, this is the best I can do to protect you, Sakura-san. At first, irritated by his words, Sakura quickly calmed down. He wasn't wrong and it was sweet he was doing it to help her improve. Still hurt, though. Can you do something about the pain? Sure, come here. I believe that would be a mistake, Naruto-kun, Haku spoke, causing both Naruto and Sakura to look at her, one neutrally, one in annoyance. For your lesson to truly stick, she must live with the consequence. If you remove the pain, you remove the lesson. Sakura gained a tick mark but Naruto tilted his head to the side, considering her words. Haku's point seemed sound and Naruto didn't want Sakura-san to backslide because he was misguided in his kindness. With a firm nod, Naruto spoke, I agree with Haku, Sakura-san. I know my clone held back, so while it may hurt you aren't injured and can continue with your duties. What? Naruto, just come heal me. Sakura-san, I suggest you lower your voice and never raise it to Naruto-kun in my presence again, Haku said with a warm smile, but Sakura saw a threatening glint in her eyes. A part of her wanted to acquiesce, another wanted to reject it and challenge the older girl to do something about it. Before she could, however, the trio were interrupted by a fast-moving dust cloud and a pair of booming shouts. Yo oh 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 what? Filled the surrounding area as two green blurs and the resulting dust stopped right in front of Naruto and Haku. Yosh, most youthful Naruto-kun, good morning. And to you as well, Guy said, greeting the younger ninja. Good morning, Guy-sensei. Morning, Mito-san. Sakura was still quiet, dumbfounded by the scene, and Lee noticed her silence. Hello. You must be the lovely Sakura-chan. I am Rock Lee, Konoha's beautiful green wild beast, Lee announced. Would you like to go out with me? I'll protect you with my life. This is way too much, way too early. I'm sorry, Lee-san, I'm interested in someone else. Lee looked down for a bit before his eyes started burning with determination. Naruto-kun has clearly taken the lead for your heart, and while that may never change, I look forward to showing you my worth, Yosh. And no, it's not Naruto. Sakura screamed, shaking in rage. Guy decided to move on before the pinkette dissolved. Naruto-kun, I understand you are not training with my rival this week, as Tenten-chan has temporarily replaced you. How would you like to join us for the day? Guy asked while in his nice guy pose. I, unfortunately, have plans throughout the day, but I am free now. Did you hear that, Lee-kun? We will elevate your flames of youth and Naruto-kun's as well. Let's start with a spirited run to our training grounds and move on from there. I can barely contain my excitement, Guy-sensei. I am exploding with youthful power. What about you, Naruto-kun? Lee asked, adopting his own nice guy pose. I don't feel combustion is imminent, no. Lee dipped his head briefly before raising it again with a blinding smile. This must be the hip attitude you often mention, Guy-sensei. If I had not already selected one, I would accept you as my lifetime rival. Naruto-kun for coolness cannot defeat the flames of youth. Well said, Lee-kun. Let us run like the wind, Yosh. Guy took off, Lee close behind and Naruto swiftly followed suit, catching up to the taijutsu users. The two kunoichi watched the three leave, Haku smiling at the odd exchange and Sakura still confused. until she remembered Haku's last words. "Haku-san, do you have a problem with me?" Sakura inquired. "Yes," she answered swiftly. "Naruto-kun was only trying to help you, and instead of being appreciative of his efforts you berate him as if he'd wronged you. He may not take personal offense, but I do on his behalf. Find a different outlet to vent your frustrations than targeting someone you know won't fight back." "I don't do that." "Yes, you do. You even did so in Nami, but that stops now. How is any of this your business? He's my teammate, and if he has a problem he can say so. I'm his assistant and, more importantly, his friend. So, I will repeat, find a better outlet for your frustrations." "Yay, what if I take them out on you?" Sakura said in annoyance, only to hear a delicate laugh. "You fight like a pillow-fisted gorilla, Sakura-san. You're years away from being a threat to me," Haku said, and then vacated the training ground via a shunshine. Sakura only gaped at the final remarks of the older girl. Soon a fit of burning anger took hold and Sakura abused the nearing training post in response. She'd stay there until time to meet her team. Nara stared intently at a Yamanaka. Yoshino was sure she'd misheard Ino's request. It was quite early and she may not have been fully alert. She was also surprised that Ino had even come here at this hour. That would explain it, her mind simply hadn't processed Ino's words correctly. There was no way Amiko's little girl was asking her to drug her own child. No way. "Ino-chan, I'm not sure I'm understanding you," Yoshino said and heard the heiress huff. Ino had come by early, as Shikamaru hadn't even awoken yet, to speak to Yoshino. While unusual, it wasn't odd as their families had been close for generations and Yoshino was something of an aunt to Ino. "I want you to put this," she waved a vial of clear liquid, "in Shikamaru's drink tomorrow night. It's a stimulant, like really potent caffeine, but that's it." "And this is a training assignment?" "Yes," Yoshino abaken. "I have to be honest, we're the weakest team of our graduating class. I'm trying to push Asuma-sensei to train us harder, but I have to complete the exercise for that to happen. Which is to beat Choji and Shikamaru in a spar at the same time." "Yes, ma'am. But as I am, I can't do that straight up." "So, you'll cheat?" Yoshino questioned. "Technically, no. This isn't against the rules we stipulated. I'm just taking every advantage to make sure my mission is a success," Ino explained and watched the Nara matriarch nod along. Yoshino considered Ino's argument. While not overly concerned with them being the strongest team, she certainly wanted them to be a strong and solid team. Asuma being more rigorous couldn't hurt, and it would break Shikamaru out of this belief he only needed to really concentrate on his intellect. The mother in her balked at drugging her own child, but he wasn't a child anymore. If Ino were getting this serious about her career, Yoshino saw no reason to impede her development. "I'll do it if you give me a full description of what the substance is and how you got it," Yoshino stipulated, and Ino nodded. She'd spent much of the night distilling the substance after her brainstorming session with Hinata-chan and Naruto-kun. She even had notes and documentation to provide in case Yoshino had asked for it. Ino smiled. Yoshino was going to be the harder sell of the two mothers she had to speak to. She was starting to believe she just might pull this off. Guy watched Naruto exit the training ground as Lee shouted his goodbyes. It was a good session. He'd had both boys drop their weight/resistance seals respectively and come at him. It was quite invigorating, and he was enthused to see how Naruto was improving the base taijutsu style Guy had helped him with. However, Guy couldn't shake his sense of guilt. He'd known from his rival that Naruto was developing into a capable taijutsu practitioner and the current best of Team 7. Guy hatched a plan to get Naruto to train with Lee and to put the young Uzumaki in a position not to hold back. Lee was a humble boy, but his tunnel vision regarding Neji was bringing about an unintentional arrogance as he solely compared himself to his chosen rival, blinding himself to the other challenges around. It worked. Lee saw that there was someone his age that could compete with his speed and strength. He hated using the blonde in such a way, but hoped the experiencing of fighting an elite jounin was, at least, close to a fair exchange for his time. While Guy was attempting to alleviate his guilt, Naruto was headed back to his apartment. He needed to shower before his meetings and wanted to send a few clones to the archives. He rather liked the unusual pair of beasts and wondered if Sai wouldn't mind having Lee join them from time to time. He wasn't surprised Lee was so fast, as he had no basis to gauge the boy's abilities, but knowing there was someone comparable to him did give him a little motivation to increase the intensity of his workouts. He really liked that he got an example of many of the basic strikes and stances of the Goken style. He'd improved his memory recall seal, so projecting the fight and incorporating elements of the style wouldn't be too difficult even if it was more rigid than his nascent style was. Before he cleared Team 9's training grounds he crossed paths with Neji, who looked especially irritated when he spoke. "What are you doing here, Uzumaki?" Naruto simply looked Neji in his eyes for several moments before giving his answer, "Leaving." He then continued to walk away, wondering how the alleged prodigy couldn't pick up on something so obvious. Neji took the answer as a dismissal and it only agitated him further. You would do well to speak properly to your betters, the Hyuga spat. Naruto turned to him, considering his words. He did have a point as Oji-san had stressed the value of politeness, which is something he then taught to Kono-chan. However, the phrasing of betters left him perplexed as Naruto hadn't known of some objective ranking system but he felt he should, at least, acknowledge Neji's attempt at good advice. If I find some, I will, and continued on his way. The second, to Neji, dismissal only soured his mood further and the shouts from his sensei and teammate hadn't helped. He swore he'd teach the blonde a lesson one day, if for no other reason than to tear down the source of Hinata's support. Fate demanded as much. Naruto, paying the bitter Hyuga no further attention, swiftly made his way back to his apartment. He had about an hour and a half to shower, change and eat before he'd hear the first bid for his redevelopment project. While, theoretically, Naruto could simply task clones to do the work once they learned how it would not do good for his company to have no employees or contractors on the books. The blonde Uzumaki was excited about the redevelopment. While much of the apartments wouldn't change, Naruto wouldn't incorporate some amenities to attract more renters. He wanted a small grocery store at the ground level and a laundry service as well. He was going to establish a small private training area behind his building and a secure hot spring. There were some other ideas but he mostly wanted the ability to expand or add as he chose so the construction would be additional structures to the existing apartment complex. The novelty being, while all apartments would be entered from the outside, there would be a Fuinjutsu-enabled passage to the resident-only amenities to keep them secure and exclusive. Another addition to the building, that only a few people would know about, was the sub-basements Naruto planned to create with Dotonjutsu and Fuinjutsu. He'd had this idea that, if it worked, would take his training to the next level but he wanted to keep it a secret. As his Oji-san stated, not every development had to be shared with the village. This would be for him and, what Haku called, his precious people. The Uzumaki had busied himself with so many projects, Anko's seal, learning medicine, battle Fuinjutsu and other areas of training that he'd stalled on his initial focus, the information systems. His short-range communication seal worked but he wanted something better, that could handle audio, video, and text. Attempts hadn't been to his liking as the images would just be blurs. How to transmit the information was the problem and one of his clones had the thought that the data of the desired transmission needed to be broken down into smaller packets and then reconstituted in almost an instant once received. Given Naruto had spent much more time with his mother's barrier information, creating the theoretical framework hadn't been hard, though coming up with a new coding language was onerous. The last hurdle was the method of transmission, which would require a space/time technique. To realize his goal, Naruto knew he had to finally begin to learn his father's signature jutsu, the Hiraishin. He also had to then surpass even his father's mastery as the Hiraishin was a Fuinjutsu-assisted ninjutsu and Naruto needed an entirely Fuinjutsu instant transmission method. The Uzumaki hummed as he exited the shower. He had a lot to do. Even with his clones it often felt like he was nearing his limit with how much he could multitask. He'd finished his preparation for his upcoming mission but he still needed to make some things for his teammates. Just because he wasn't going to be there didn't mean he couldn't be helpful, and as his replacement, Tenten-san, was alleged to be really good at shuriken jutsu, he knew just the items to give her. He completed his hygiene rituals, dried off and changed, a black v-neck, long sleeve shirt over a mesh shirt, black pants and sandals to match. Not his usual shinobi wear, but since it was for business, Hatake-sensei and his Oji-san both recommended a change in wardrobe. He sat down at his table, a clone having prepared omuris with miso soup. The Uzumaki ate quietly, enjoying the small moment of inactivity. Kurenai overlooked her team with a small smile on her face. The team had just completed one of their recurrent training exercises, hide and seek. 2 members would search for one party but the stipulation was, none of the Jinan could use the abilities their clans were infamous for. Kurenai had to put a special salve under Kiba's nose to achieve this as the boy couldn't simply turn his scent smell off. They'd struggled initially, as she assumed, but they'd grown over the months in and out of the exercise. Kiba had to learn to be more observant and thoughtful, qualities that were slowly bleeding into other facets of the Inuzuka's life. He'd still charge ahead, that'd likely always be his style, but he was getting smarter about it. Shino was learning to treat the environment and people around him as things to engage and interact with, not merely objects of observation and assessment. He was, in turn, talking more with his teammates about non-shinobi matters, and his teammates were all too happy to talk in return. Hinata, too, initially faltered, but she was learning to rely on more than just her eyes and getting more and more confident. Kurenai couldn't be more proud of her team. While not the combat focus like Team 7, They had enough power to not fall victim like other tracker-focused teams while also learning to be multidimensional in their ninja abilities. She was even ready to start them on some genjutsu studies, outside of how to detect and break them, which she drilled into their heads early on. None of them may specialize, but they'd all know how to do something in the illusion arts. Kurenai's focus was disturbed by the presence of a hawk circling the team, meaning they were being summoned to the Hokage Tower. She wasted no time getting the Genan's attention and leading them to the tower. If they were being summoned, it was likely a time-sensitive C rank. There was always a hint of concern when she took them out of the village, but she chalked it up to just the natural concern a teacher would have for her students, as she was also confident they could handle themselves. They were solid individually and even better as a team. The mission was a search and rescue, if alive, or confirmation of death if not. It would take them 2 days to reach the mountainous region they were traveling to, so Kurenai gave her team an hour to pack and report to the main gate. Team 8 separated as they exited the Hokage Tower, each attending to their own mission prep. Kurenai chose to go with the standard Jounin uniform, taking into consideration the weather conditions of the mountains. She resolved herself to barter with Uzumaki-kun to get some of his temperature control seals. Hinata already had them in her mission wear, and it had been a mental lapse to not procure some as well. She may make it a team buy, as Shino and Kiba could both benefit, but she'd have to consider what would be a fair trade for his services. Maybe some genjutsu lessons and even a jutsu, she wondered as she finished packing. After having a light lunch and rechecking her gear, Kurenai left out, arriving just as the rest of her team did. She smiled briefly as they were neither too early nor late. She spared them some brief words about their expected travel duration, and after officially checking out, Team 8 departed. Movement, she realized, was going to be her key to success. Any traps she erected needed to keep her teammates moving, off balance and guessing. Shikamaru likely couldn't use his shadow possession while moving, and his stamina wasn't the best either. He also didn't strategize the best when on the back foot, situations not in his control. Choji was different, he was all motion. The tank that could barrel through opposition when needed, but she'd use that against him, and without Shikamaru guiding him, the boy would lose confidence. Ino realized she'd have to work with Choji on that. He shouldn't use Shikamaru as a crutch, but it'd have to wait. The Yamanaka heiress was planning out her battle, that is why she was currently in her team's training grounds. She wanted to get a real feel for the area, looking at it through new eyes. She wouldn't put up any of the traps until tomorrow night just in case, but it was good to have a working schematic now. After getting Choji's mom to agree, Ino didn't feel as confident as when she left Yoshino. It was starting to feel real now. She had a brief moment of doubt as she wondered if she really could do this on her own, outside of the help she'd be receiving from her surrogate aunts. Ino immediately shook away those dark thoughts. She knew how many saw her, the vapid, fangirl heiress, the girl that would rather gossip than train. While some of those things were true, she was a sincere, and vocal, admirer of Sasuke. She wasn't some dimwit. She's been the one requesting more training, pushing her limits. She's the one trying to diversify her skill set. She had to win. This single victory wouldn't change people's perceptions of her, but she could start with Asuma-sensei. She could prove she wasn't just playing ninja, she was serious. From there she didn't know, but she had people to help figure it out. The Yamanaka simply knew she'd only accept the best from herself and push her teammates to do so as well. Two blondes sat in the observation deck of a surgical suite overlooking a team perform. From above it looked so orderly, a choreographed dance that belied the split-second decision-making and potential consequences should one misstep. Tsunade wasn't concerned, though. She'd trained Shizune well and had absolute faith in her longtime apprentice. Her visible discomfort was only due to the remaining vestiges of her phobia. Watching surgeries were to be an immersion therapy, a way to safely confront the symbol of her deeper issues. Tsunade hadn't told Naruto she had hemophobia, and he never inquired as to why she wasn't performing surgeries. He was, however, a very observant boy, and while he may not understand a lot, he does know the signs of discomfort and the periodic flinching of Tsunade's shoulders. Recalling some advice he read in a book once, Naruto simply reached out and held her hand. He missed the small smile she donned at his gesture, his focus having returned to the surgery. Being a combat medic is like fighting a war on all fronts. Time is against you, your conditions aren't sterile, and you often have enemies to worry about. Do you have enough supplies? Are you rested enough? Focused enough? Is there enough light to see? What if you have multiple patients? Who gets how much time? The development and refinement of medical ninjutsu has helped. The fewer surgeries we have to actually cut people open, the better, but even medical ninjutsu has stagnated in recent years. Why? Honestly? And this is going to sound arrogant as hell, but it's because I stopped creating them. Medics know more, but treatments and jutsu? Not much. What if I hadn't left and had died? Who would have continued to push the field forward? This is why I'm glad Sensei called me back. He was right, Naruto. With us working together, I think we can make another leap in the medical field and maybe inspire some other people to get off their asses and stop hiding in my shadow, Tsunade said and saw Naruto nod in acknowledgement. Your security measures will go into full effect soon. We don't have many Genin on staff, so their background checks will be completed soon, and I've been impressed with your pharmacology studies. Now, I want you to move toward actual treatment seals. After you get back from your next mission, I want to start your surgical rotation in earnest, which means you'll need to be here in person until I say otherwise. Your clones can do rounds with our diagnosticians. Though you are to no longer have them henge into other people. The transforming of the clones was initially agreed upon to not draw attention to Tsunade taking on a new student. It just looked like she was testing out a pilot program. It was also an attempt, on Hiruzen's part as it was his suggestion, to insulate Naruto from biased staff or even patients. Tsunade was of the opinion that people either dealt with him being there or they could get the hell out, but ultimately deferred to her sensei's wish. But if he were going to be seeing more and more patients, there had to be a level of trust, so the deception had to end. Okay, was Naruto's response. Henge, no henge, it didn't really matter to him. Good. Now, as I was saying, unsterile environments and live combat zones are one of the more enduring issues. Do you think you could develop some type of medical room barrier? Tsunade asked and watched as Naruto stroked his chin lightly. Barriers, be they ninjutsu or fuinjutsu, required a good deal of chakra. The more you required the barrier to do, the more chakra it took to maintain it. That was simply just the reality of art. One that could offer protection, cloaking, Naruto's idea as if the enemy can't see you they are less likely to attack you, as well as some kind of filter to purify the area and keep it that way would be costly. But possible, the Uzumaki thought. Hey, before you go too far down that rabbit hole, I want to stop you, Tsunade said and laughed as Naruto developed a small pout. Another idea I want you to consider is some kind of stasis, as operating in the field is not always possible. I've attempted to create a jutsu to accomplish this but haven't been successful. I couldn't localize the effects. Those are the next two projects I want you to tackle, and I'll get you whatever resources you need. Any questions? How long do I have? There's no timetable, but the sooner the better, of course. Any more questions? No. Alright, one last thing, did you treat Amiko Yamanaka last night? And did you restrain Inoiki while doing so? Yes to both, Naruto answered and watched Tsunade laugh again. You have a nice laugh, sensei, Naruto said, and she did. It wasn't like Hinata's giggle, but there was a melodious quality to it. Tsunade waved off the compliment. She knew he meant it and there wasn't anything more to it. Well, you did the right thing. Never let anything prevent you from offering the care needed once you accept someone as a patient. Though you didn't win any points with Inoiki, so I'd watch that. I did as he asked, so I don't understand his hostility, Naruto said, tilting his head. He found Ino-chan's dad to be confusing. Tsunade sighed, not wanting to be the one to have this conversation, but, clearly, sensei hadn't done so. Naruto, Inoiki doesn't really dislike you for anything you've done. It's because you're a boy who has the attention of his daughter. He thinks you want to have sex with her and that it's his job to protect her virtue. I do want to have sex with her, I told her as much. I don't see how that's his concern. Tsunade looked mildly surprised at the boy's bold admission but recovered well. Why that is his concern is a very long, complicated, and frankly sexist discussion, and you should ask sensei if you want to know. What's important here is that Inoiki doesn't dislike Naruto Uzumaki, he dislikes Ino's male friend, she offered, and Naruto tilted his head in the other direction. In another situation, Tsunade might find it adorable. So, any boy who may show such interest in Ino-chan may receive a similar reaction? Yes, and you admitting you want to have sex with her didn't help matters. I didn't know you shouldn't do that, not until Hinata-chan told me. I don't do it anymore. Well, that's progress, I guess. But you shouldn't be friends with girls just in hopes of having sex with them, Tsunade admonished, realizing being a sensei to a boy was going to be hard. I'm not, the two are unrelated. I didn't know Ino-chan and I were friends until after I offered to have sex with her. I'll still be her friend even if she doesn't. Same with Hinata-chan. I wouldn't stop learning from you and Shizune-senpai just because neither of you wanted to have sex with me. That'd be weird, Naruto replied as if he were stating the obvious. Tsunade amended her last thought, it wasn't going to be hard but incredibly hard.
I don't know what to say in response to that, so you can leave.
Take Tantan with you, she needs some exercise, Tsunade said, really needing a drink right now. She also decided she needed to limit Naruto's exposure to Jiraiya as the world didn't need another gallant pervert. Jiraiya was settling in for the night. He'd just met with an important contact but one that didn't have a lot of usable information. That was maddening, but it was the question this contact had, Questions concerning Naruto that put the Toad Sage on edge and wondering if he should cut his losses. He'd need to speak to Sensei about it once he returned. He also needed to talk to his godson. He'd drug his feet on Anko's cursed seal and he knew Naruto was losing patience with his lack of help. He should just explain his reasons and hope the boy would listen. The kid seemed rational, but the thing about adolescence is that their irrationality flares up at the worst times, even among prodigies. But to delay any further was risking his relationship and he couldn't allow that, not at all. The large man sighed as he kicked off his geta and got into bed. He was mildly surprised to see a messenger toad appear with a missive from Naruto. The Gaki hadn't contacted him in such a way before, but he was glad Naruto was getting familiar with all the toads. He unfurled the scroll and read the contents quickly before unsealing some documents contained in a storage seal at the bottom. He looked at the messenger toad. Then back to the scroll. Then the toad again before exclaiming, "What the fuck is this?" Jiraiya's surprise was understandable given the message contained therein. He couldn't believe what his godson had done. He was going to wring that brat's neck and yell at Sensei for allowing him to grow up like that. Jiraiya read the scroll one last time to make sure he wasn't losing his mind. "Jiraiya, my calls for assistance have gone unheeded and I have yet to be given a reason as to why. In an effort to obtain your acquiescence, I have bought your publishing house. Within the storage seal at the bottom are the copies of the sales agreement and other official documents. Until you render the aid I need to help Mitarashi Anko-chan or explain, fully, why you have not no new copies of existing Icha books will be printed and all future editions will be shelved. If you try to break your contract, which I now own, I will sue in the courts of Fire Country. I await your response. Uzumaki Naruto."